my key stream. I don't want the key stream. How's everybody doing tonight? We are going to be watching probably what will become one of the most famous speeches about this war. Uh, the man, the myth, the legend, the person that we are waiting to hear from the most as American citizens. America first. The anti-Trump common sense perspective on what is going on right now. Mr. Nick Fuentes. And we're going to be covering his stream. So, let's go get starting soon. Oh, there we go. Starting soon. And I'm going to mute myself now. The thing is, I do have to mute myself, and I will do commentary, but only if I need to jump in on something. Otherwise, we'll just be reacting with you and watching the full screen. Because if I unmute myself, it'll echo, because I do not have. I was muted that whole time. I'm sorry, guys. I was reading super chats from Nick Fuentes' stream, and I was muted. Well, but it was good anyway because the last one was like a hate comment about Jews and stuff, and I'm not for that. Which is why before we get into this, I have to clarify why we are live streaming this event. It's not for Jew hate or any kind of hatred towards any people. It's because this is one of the biggest cultural moments out there on the internet right now. We have over 60,000 people, over 60,000 human beings are watching this man's speech right now as he tells us what is up. And this is the person that we should listen to for the what is up, because this is the guy who has been against like the actions of these wars since the beginning. And like while I do support the war myself because I have friends that are Afghans. I have friends that are Iranians that have told me how they feel, and also because I know from like World War One that if you don't support your own country's wars, you end up losing wars, and that's how you end up with Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, etc. That's how you end up with Nick Fuentes in charge. But he is the counterculture movement. He is bigger than Hassan. He is bigger than Asmongold. He is bigger than Joe Rogan. He has 60,000 people on one website watching him live right now, listening to his every word. And that is why we are going to listen to his every word and then we are going to discuss what really happened here. Because do I agree with the kids being blown up? No. But was it next to a literal army base? Yeah. So was that the future of the leaders of Iran? Probably. No one had a problem with, the Taliban controlling women and doing tourism. Nobody had a problem with the Ayatollah abusing women for years and killing over 40,000 protesters. Now everyone has a problem with Israel and America blowing up one school building or a few school buildings when all this is going down. I don't agree with that. I also think it's kind of ridiculous because you see that the French government, the UK government, all of that, were supporting us and are supporting us and going in on this because Iran is attacking everyone else, like blatantly attacking everyone else, like blowing up a commercial civilian airport in Kuwait, all right? Striking down places in Saudi Arabia. Like, yeah, Iran is going fucking crazy right now. But I gotta say, having no Ayatollah fucking win. Having no head of the Taliban, thank you Pakistan, fucking win, okay? And if you're gonna say that it's not a win, you're nuts. Nick Fuentes is going to give us that kind of in-between libertarian, middle America opinion. I grew up in Illinois, 50 miles away from where he's at right now. I feel like Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes, Kanye West, and myself included, all believe the same fundamental libertarian principles of Ron Paul because we kind of grew up where our state, our home state, was being occupied by this like Obama, like we're not racist, bullshit, democratic thing. And we kind of saw it before everybody else. And so while the opinions politically have scattered, and Nick Fuentes is definitely in his lane doing his thing, I think this is a moment that we should listen to what he has to say. And if Charlie Kirk was alive, I would be playing his telecast as well. Not that it would be doing anything different than what I'm already doing and saying that we're doing everything right, because Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes are two peas in a pod, essentially. They're both 2012 Ron Paul supporters, libertarians from Illinois. Charlie Kirk goes on to continue to support Donald Trump, doesn't say anything negative about Israel, and creates the biggest nonprofit to get Trump reelected. Nick Fuentes gets ostracized by the entire community because he would not conform to the idea of, saying Israel is okay. And now it's his moment. 663,000 followers on Rumble. What is the live stream up to? 62,000 people now in it. And here we go, people. Nick Fuentes tells us about the beginning of the war in Iran, something that he's been predicting for over a year. Enjoy, and I might pause a few times, come back in, have a few comments with you guys. Please drop the comments. Please talk. Please have conversation with me. We'll figure it all out. I'll pause it and have back and forth. But I do want you to hear this in its entirety, even if it's piecemealed between us coming back in with commentary. I don't feel like it's right to play this live and talk over it. So, without further ado, Nick Fuentes on the war in Iran.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight, and I wish it was under better circumstances. Normally, I'd say I'm excited to be here with you, but this is a very interesting turn of events. And tonight, we're here with an emergency broadcast, a special Saturday episode here on the weekend to discuss the historic, world-changing events of last night. I'm sure, as you all know, we are now living in a new world. As Oliver Anthony would say, we are living in a new world. Last night, the United States and Israel launched a joint attack against Iran. And make no mistake about it, this should be made unequivocally clear right now. This is a regime change war. That is what the president said. That is what it is. And so the reason I say this is because last year, when Israel and the United States engaged Iran for the first time directly, as they did in Operation Midnight Hammer and the so-called 12-day war in June of 2025, it was contentious whether we called this a war because of the end game, because of the mode of attack. But what should be made clear is that we are now engaged against the Islamic Republic of Iran in a full-fledged regime change effort. And this is ours. We bought this. We're in it. This is our country now. This is the world. So tonight, we're going to get into all of that. We're going to get into what is happening in Iran. We're going to talk about the attack. We'll talk about the prelude to it. We'll talk about the actual operation. We're going to talk about Iran's counterattack, which seems to be mostly ineffective. And contrary to a lot of the hype from Iran itself and some of Iran's biggest defenders in the United States, there is not any meaningful pushback that has materialized. Just isn't there. Not from them, not from the axis of resistance. But we'll talk a little bit about their strategy. We're going to talk about the day after. It has been reported by the New York Times that this is expected to be a 4-day operation. That is a report from the media, so that's not 100%. The media is telling us that this will last for a little bit more than half of a week. However, the Trump administration says we are going to keep going. And it might be less than that, it might be more than that, but it depends on the outcome and it depends on the effect that it has on the Iranian regime. We're going to talk tonight about what happens the day after. When this operation concludes, what exactly is the outcome here? And we are being told, according to the president's statement last night, that the goal is to liberate the Iranians. Where have we heard this before? Very fresh concept. We will be greeted as liberators. You could call this Operation Iranian Freedom. And we are there to liberate them from tyranny by destroying their regime and leaving. And as history has shown in the Middle East, this always works. It always works, bombing and deposing an oppressive tyrant and then either staying or leaving. It's always as easy to do as it is to say, and there's never any fallout, never any unintended consequences. So we'll talk a little bit about what the end game is there for the Trump administration, what the plan is, if there is any, and what the prospects are for who will control Iran in the future. And that'll be our show. I'm going to lay it all out. And we'll try to unravel what exactly is happening here and where we're going. So that's going to be our show. Very excited to get into all of this with you. Before we get into the show, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know.
And this is my time to let you guys know to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. We have no sponsors over here, but if you subscribe, we do live streams of historical context, public domain footage every single day, as well as current events like this one. And I drop 10 different YouTube shorts every single day about whatever is going on in the world. So make sure to check those out. The one thing I do want to make sure to point out for YouTube and for the censors, for everybody else, is that we will continue to watch this speech because I think it is like very important to culture right now. I think that this is where culture is at. But if it does get into a very heavy anti-Semitic slant or into the lane where we might be up on the terms of service of YouTube or other streamers, we will stop the stream at that point, which might happen during the super chats or sometime during the speech. But again, this is very important, very elegant. As I've said before, as I said when we first started this stream, Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk, Kanye West, all from the suburbs of Chicago, all 2012 Ron Paul supporters. Charlie Kirk went on to essentially support the president in his endeavors, where Nick Fuentes was isolated away from the zone. So more important than ever right now is getting the other side of the situation. And I think that Nick Fuentes is the number one person for the other side of the situation. So we're going to continue his speech. Right now we're up to 63,000 people watching this live stream. All right. Enjoy, guys.
You know what you think about the show. You can post your apology forms, or you can tell me how grateful you are for the show, for the predictions. You're welcome. But be sure to leave a comment, smash the like button, subscribe. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store, and subscribe to our brand new subscriber website, AmericaFirst.plus. We have our actually new and improved website, downloadable MP3s and RSS feed of the show. We actually have 5 episodes of the show free on the website with a very good video player. People say it's better than Rumble. So check that out too, AmericaFirst.plus. $100 a month, you get to be in a group chat with me. And we'll shill a little bit, but not too much, because it's a very serious occasion. Now, before we get into all of the news, before we get into the actual strikes and how this is playing out and where all of this is going, I have one thing to say to all of you, to all of the Trump supporters, to all of the Trump voters, to the plan trusters, to the Shabbos goys out there. I really just have one thing to say to all of you, which is, I told you so. I told you so. They said I was crazy when I predicted this 2 years ago. In 2024, I told you this is exactly what would happen. I have been saying it for years. I was laughed at. I was attacked. They called me crazy. Well, sometimes Chicken Little knows what he's talking about. And I told you so. I said a vote for Trump is a vote for a war with Iran. And I tried. You know that. I really did. I went out there in August of 2024, and I actually made the demand on Truth Social and on Twitter. I rallied my audience, my followers. And the call to action was clear. I said, we cannot, should not vote for Trump unless he commits not to bring us to war in Iran. So I took a lot of flack for not voting. I took a lot of flack. People said I flirted with supporting Kamala or the Democrats, or...
Here's the thing, guys, with this, that I just got to point out really quick, which is, yes, Nick, you get to gloat at the top of this, but us striking Iran right now, I don't really think it's a bad thing. We took out a dictator, and we took out another dictator in Afghanistan. And, like, you're not a wokey. Are you going to really just cry about this school? Like, I understand you're on the other side, Nick, but okay.
Supporting them or voting them, that I had flipped, that I was in league with Joe Biden or something like that. But I made it very clear in August 2024. I said I am willing to vote for Trump. As a matter of fact, I'd like to vote for Trump. I said, but I won't do it unless he makes a commitment not to bring us to war. And he didn't do that, and he couldn't do that because that was always part of the plan. Trump's ascendancy from the very beginning. And when I say the beginning, I mean 2016. It was always part of this plan. This plan by Israel made decades ago, perhaps centuries ago, to terraform the Middle East and make it a place that is not safe for Israel, but make it a place that submits to Israel, This is about regional hegemony for that country.
Okay, but he's starting to get a little conspiratorial here because I agree with him on the re-election. I think that the re-election, Donald Trump was with Netanyahu all the way through. The higher Jewish Republican donors were with Trump all the way through. But I'm pretty sure in 2016, the Jewish donors were with Ted Cruz. And if I recall correctly, Mr. Nick Fuentes, when I was supporting Ted Cruz, so were you supporting Ted Cruz in 2016. So there is that to remember when saying, I told you so, the whole thing was a plan by Israel since the beginning of time. Like, all right, come on, man. On re-election, absolutely. I think a lot of us voters, though, knew that it was between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. But was Donald Trump being funded by Israel? Absolutely. Like, is the Joe Rogan experience and all of this stuff tied to the design of this? Sure. But you were supporting Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz was APAC number fucking 1 in 2015. So that's call bullshit on that one, Mr. Nick Fuentes.
And they have used Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and the MAGA movement as a Trojan horse for that agenda from the beginning. It was Trump that withdrew the United States from the original Iranian nuclear deal. It was Trump who assassinated Qasem Soleimani. It was Trump that bombed Fordo, Esfahan, and Natanz last year. And now it is Trump that is delivering what Israel has always wanted, what they have wanted this entire century for the past 25 years, what they have tried to pressure every U.S. president since George W. Bush to do, and that is to once and for all confront and topple the Iranian regime, eliminating the last of Israel's rivals and giving them free rein.
But is that a bad thing? Is that not America first? Is not putting the Persian president in charge of the Middle fucking East and making it one big parade for us to go vacation at not America first? Like, I understand you got a lot of new people here in your audience that are all the wokies that are like, oh, free Palestine. Oh, I love Nick Fuentes because he supports the anti-war movement. I'm a libertarian too, man. But come the fuck on. We just killed 2 crazy dictators. Like, hello. In 24 years. If it was always the plan for Israel to
over one of the most important and consequential regions in the world, and that is the Middle East. That is the heart of the Rimland. And Trump has done it, and he was always a part of that. So I do just want to get that out of the way because I think it's a little bit deserved. I told you so. I told you it happened like this. They said broken clock is right twice a day. Well, maybe I'm just a regular clock now because I think I know what time it is. Little bit better than anybody else. So now that I've gotten that out of my system here, we can talk a little bit about the conflict. And I'll start with, let's talk about what is happening. Let's talk about what happened last night. We'll talk about what is ongoing. And then I want to rewind a little bit and talk about how we got here, because that is actually the real story. The real story is the process. It is the long march to this war, which, as I said, has gone on for decades between.
This is the part we are waiting for. This is the part I will absolutely, fundamentally agree with Nick Fuentes on. Is he's going to give us how this happened. And the guy that predicted it 2 years ago when everyone was saying, oh, no, it's not going to happen. I think that's the person we should listen to about how this happens.
Administrations, in the Trump administration the first time, back the second time, we really need to talk about how we arrived here. And partially why I remind people that I'm vindicated on this subject is because this is called establishing credibility. How did I predict that this would play out with precision, with accuracy? How was I able to call the shot? Really going back to October 7th, but even through the election and recognizing Trump's role, through to the operation last year, and then predicting it would continue shortly thereafter, it is because I understand how this works. So it's not just for my own self-aggrandizement. It's not just for my own edification that I say this.
That's the part that's true. That's why we're here. That's why everyone in America is watching America First tonight, is because Nick Fuentes has the knowledge to explain to us what the fuck just happened.
Here's the point. Why was I able to predict that Trump would bring us to war in Iran and Trump voters did not? Because Trump voters are part of the scam. They are suckers. They were tricked because they listen far too much to what is said online by influencers, which is effectively a form of soft lobbying. If you didn't see this coming, if you underestimated the possibility or the inevitability that this would happen, it is probably because your information diet, the opinion makers that you follow, this is an artifice which is put in front of you by special interest groups. Why was this not on your radar? Why did you underestimate the likelihood this would happen? It's because probably your timeline has been curated by an algorithm to show you a very particular perspective, a very particular frame of.
When Nick says this, everyone agrees. Yes, the algorithm is feeding you what you're feeding you. But one thing that I have noticed throughout the last 24 hours is the people who have TikTok brain, who are pretty much at least 12 hours a day on TikTok, these are the people that exclusively are like, Israel did all of this, and you would know if you watch TikTok, and then they took over TikTok, but now Larry Ellison owns TikTok, and now he owns everything, and the Jews own everything, and what are we gonna do? Guys, yes, there are curated algorithms. But as somebody that is watching media firsthand in all aspects and focuses primarily on the narrative of the pop culture of America, meaning I've been paying attention to politics since about 2013-14, let me tell you firsthand, TikTok is also warping your brain into a perspective that is anti-Israel. I'm just saying. It goes both ways.
The Trump administration. And that frame is a scam. It is wrong. The reason I called it right is because I didn't follow Trump's speeches and his influencers and his cadre of soft lobbyists on social media. I followed the money. I followed the institutional capture. I followed those associations, which are defining. And if you looked very closely at those things on a very specific timeline, it should have been obvious that this was inexorable. It wasn't going to go any other way. But like I said, more on that in a moment. We're going to start by talking about what happened last night. So last night, I believe it was a little after midnight Central Time, so it was maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Eastern Time, the U.S. and Israel launched a joint strike on Iran. And many people saw this coming. It was pretty clear based on the military buildup in the Middle East, the deployment of 2 aircraft carriers, the USS Gerald Ford and the Abraham Lincoln, over a dozen destroyers. You had 50% of the U.S. deployable air power in the Middle East at the time that the conflict broke out. In addition, the United States and Israel had made steps to bolster their defenses. They deployed missile defense systems like Patriot missile batteries and THAAD systems. The U.S. moved its troops out of harm's way, called on diplomatic personnel at embassies to evacuate. Israel opened bomb shelters. So it was very clear, as you know, that since those protests in January, about a month and a half ago.
This is what I'll say as somebody paying attention in the media to what happened last night. I was awake.
When the United States moved to deploy all this military power in the region, that we were moving towards war. And last night, we finally got it. And so the U.S. and Israel.
Fuck. Fuck! I was fucking muted and then I unmuted myself. God damn it, guys. What I was saying there is that Daniel Fieldman did the protest for the Muslims in Times Square. So all of these like Jewish operatives, all of the Jewish media, Mo News, other influencers that had ties to Trump, all of these people definitely did have insider knowledge that this was going down. If you look back at like Daniel Fieldman's stories at 6 a.m. yesterday, before any of this, like 24 hours before any of this, he was showing raw video of stealth bombers leaving Nevada. So like anybody that was on the inside of this definitely knew what was going on. So Nick is definitely right there.
Launched, I believe now the tally is over 1,000 airstrikes on Iran. It appears that the U.S. and Israel have suffered no casualties. They have complete air superiority over the western half of the country. They claim they will have air superiority over the rest of the country within 24 hours. The U.S. and Israel targeted regime targets, so centers of government, command and control, military leadership, fortified bunkers. They also targeted nuclear sites, and that's not just Fordo, Esfahan, and Natanz, which is where they enrich the uranium, but also Bushehr, where Iran operates a Russian-provided nuclear power plant. And lastly, they targeted, and this is the big one, regime military assets. So missile launch platforms, their missile manufacturing cities, where they actually have underground an entire city to build their missiles. The U.S. targeted their Navy, targeted their defense ministry, their intelligence ministry.
Okay, so what are the other options here, people? That's the thing that people forget to look at. What were the other options? The other options are Kamala Harris is president, and Israel is still in control of us, and Russia is still funding nuclear arsenals for Iran, but we have a president and an administration that won't stop it. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that they won't stop it, but that Trump will stop it. I haven't seen a single anti-Israel candidate in probably 120 years in America since the invention of Israel. So what was that, 80 something years ago? So what makes you think anyone else would have been any better? If we had another Obama, if we had another fucking Kamala, if we had any other politician in there, Russia would be funding nuclear arsenals of Iran. We'd still have the Ayatollah. We'd still have the guy in Pakistan or in Afghanistan silencing women and shit. All of this would still be the case because of the optics of what would happen. Instead, we got Trump that's just like, boom, motherfucker, and freedom for all.
Ministry, the executive function of the military, and all the hardware.
Sorry, super chat. Big bag of Pop 420 says, listen, we all make mistakes. We all fall short in the glory of God, so we don't go to judge you. Much love. God bless you. Absolutely. Thank you, man. Love ya.
Very shortly after the strikes began and rumors surfaced of this on social media, video was posted, the president made a statement. And I have to tell you, this was the most disturbing, surreal thing I think I've witnessed maybe since the COVID pandemic. And if you saw this live, you know what I'm talking about. The president posted a formal address last night announcing the operation and discussing the goals of the operation and some expectations about what will happen. And he announced it wearing no necktie in a baseball cap that says USA.
Okay, Unc. Like, I'm a millennial. Nick Fuentes is like almost Gen Z. I don't get your fucking suit off the fucking live stream, bro. He didn't look good enough. He looked like a goddamn president. He looked like America. He looked like fucking America.
In front of a black curtain by himself. And without getting too much into this quite yet, because we will arrive there eventually, there is something particularly surreal when you measure and weigh the gravity of the situation and its significance for the United States. Obviously, the United States has been involved in the Middle East for a very long time, doing exactly this sort of thing. Regime change, proxy warfare, fighting terrorism ostensibly, deploying massive amounts of air, sea, and ground power. And the entire conceit of this MAGA movement of President Trump, the whole reason we're doing this, nominally, this was supposed to be in opposition to the Iraq War and to the legacy of the Iraq War and all of the other associated interventions.
It's fine to be hypocritical, but I'm just going to point this out. Yes, Donald Trump was designed to be against the Iraq War. What was the Iraq War? Going in 2 years after Afghanistan, creating a second war that lasted over 20 years. I think voting for Donald Trump, bombing the shit out of everybody, telling them they better do better, and if they don't, we bomb them again, and we do all of that in 4 days. It's a little different than the Iraq War.
Now, we know that the same people that were behind the war in Iraq, they're the same people that have been beating the drum for war in Iran for just as much time. And they have tried to pressure many presidents into doing this, and they have moved the United States closer to a conflict like this. And so Trump, being the one who was supposed to challenge and oppose all of this, who repudiated it and created this successful political movement, now to be delivering for the same people, repudiating those people and their agenda, for him now to be serving them, delivering for them.
Is Donald Trump serving them, or are they serving Donald Trump? Because I think that Donald Trump is like a very libertarian American values person. end the wars, eliminate dictators. And he's doing it really quickly. He's not playing forever war games like Dick Cheney. And it's a weird narrative. I understand Nick Fuentes has to stay here because he got ostracized by, Tiny Hat McGee on his tiny horse. But as for the rest of us, like, Trump is different than Bush and Obama. It's different.
What they have wanted for so long, number one on their wish list, it's actually disturbing. It's disturbing what it says about how our country works, whether we, the people, are still in control. Is this a government of, by, and for the people?
Yo, thank you, Big Better Pop, for 420 for the membership. I appreciate y'all. Let's get back at it.
Do elections matter? Does the popular will matter in our representative democracy, in our republic?
No. If you've ever watched Nick Fuentes, the answer is no. They're all bought and paid for by Israel, so I choose Donald Trump, the only one that might do something different.
If we vote to repudiate a policy, a foreign interest group, a special interest group, repudiate a particular agenda, and we get that agenda anyway, that war, those people, regardless, what does that say about the political state, the actual true political reality of the United States of America? If anything, it just verifies what Trump said from the very beginning, which is that we are no longer in control. The people are no longer sovereign. And we knew that. That is something that we had always known and we had always suspected. This is confirmation.
Yo, thank you, Big Bag, for all the support. I just made you a monitor. Make sure that everybody's good, but, let everything through. We are free speech first here, unless somebody's threatening somebody or putting out an address or doxing or whatever. But thank you so much for all that support. I really appreciate you, Big Bag.
This is an illegitimate regime. The Constitution, representative democracy, our republic is effectively over. You can vote for a candidate that repudiates the global war on terror, the war in Iraq, regime change, someone that explicitly promises not to bring us into new conflicts. Someone that explicitly campaigns as the peace president, no new wars, and you'll get all of it anyway.
We've all been listening, right? So he just said that this war has been going on long before Trump. This plot by Israel has been going on long before Trump. And then he says, Trump promised no new wars. I think Trump is just cleaning up the old wars.
We are in a state of distress. This is not a republic anymore. That's over. And the MAGA movement is surely dead, of course. But anyway, I digress. I watched the speech last night, very uncanny and disturbing and strange. And you need to listen to the speech because the speech lays out exactly what this is. Trump talks about the entire history of U.S.-Iranian relations. He goes back to the 1979 Iranian hostage crisis, to the Beirut barracks bombing in 1983. He discussed Iran's use of IEDs and their backing of Shiite militias in Iraq. What is the purpose of all of this? What is the purpose of all of this history? Well, he is making the case, as they say. He is making the case, creating the pretext for a regime change war in Iran. And the message is simple. The Iranian regime, obviously Iran is going nowhere. The territory, the population, they're not going anywhere. But this regime, which was thrust into power during the revolution in 1979, Trump is making the case that they are an international pariah, a threat to the United States, an historic adversary of the United States, and therefore, that is why they...
I'm hearing that that Nick's mic is much louder than mine. Is Nick's too loud? Is Nick too loud? I'm gonna wait for a second here. We got about a 30-second delay on the chat versus the live stream, so it's hard for me to pick up the chats before what's going on. But let's just take a pause here for a second so that I can make sure that this stream is good for y'all. Is Nick like overblown, or am I not being picked up enough? I know sometimes I'm jumping in and out, and I might not be, turning my mic on. But somebody, please confirm to me. We've been enemies with Iran since Ayatollah came into power, right? Am I wrong? Yeah, absolutely. No, you are too quiet. Your mic is just quiet. Got you. Okay. Yeah, I'm on regular. I'm on the fucking laptop right now. I don't even have headphones hooked up to this right now, because I didn't think that I was gonna do a live stream tonight with commentary. But then when he came out with this, I felt like it was absolutely needed. So if you can't hear me, that's fine. The person that we need to hear, Nick Fuentes.
They have to go. So make no mistake about it. That rhetoric that he lays out in the beginning of the speech, that's a regime change speech. He is laying out the case. This is why the regime has to go. That's not a speech about nuclear weapons, missiles. It's not a speech about bringing them to the negotiating table. Obviously, that's a regime change speech. Further, he makes it even more explicit. He announced the targets of the strike. He said that the United States and Israel launched a joint operation targeting Iran's navy, its missile production facilities, and regime targets. He called upon the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the Iranian armed forces to lay down their arms or they would die. He then said that upon the conclusion of the operation, he invites the Iranian people to emerge from shelter and to take their country back. He effectively said, I am giving you the opportunity. I am neutralizing the Iranian government and its military and the regime. And once we're finished, you will emerge and take back your country. And so every aspect of this speech is critical. He is making the case that the regime must be toppled, talking about destroying all of the regime's assets, killing all of their personnel, calling for a complete and total surrender. And in the end, after all that, calling upon the Iranian people to rise up, have a coup, and install a new regime. So again, make no mistake about it, we have entered into a regime change war. Now, why am I saying this? Why is this such an important thing to understand? We have been at war with Iran for decades. We have been in a state of war with Iran by every other means. We have assassinated their leaders. The Israelis have assassinated their scientists. With Israel, we have launched cyber attacks on their infrastructure, not just nuclear, but also other vital critical infrastructure. There has been espionage, industrial sabotage. We have gone to war with their proxies, like the Houthis in Yemen. We have launched strikes against their positions in other countries too. We have been in a state of war for a long time. But because the objectives of these other operations have been limited, people don't call it a war. They say these are operations to neutralize the nuclear program, or this is meant to increase our leverage in negotiations, or it's some form of a proxy war, and this is about rolling back their soft or hard influence across the region. Well, tonight, nobody can deny we are now engaged against Iran in a full-fledged regime change war. Now, what's more, as we discussed for the past couple of weeks, everybody suspected that we would eventually use this military power that is forward deployed against Iran. The question concerning that operation is what the goal of that would be and how it would be accomplished. Now, this matters very deeply because the kind of force that has been deployed into the region, as you
This is the one point that I'll make before we get into this part of it. The regime change might be a little hard, okay? The guy that they want to become the leader of Iran is a descendant of a Persian oligarch who lives in the United States, okay? So, like, if we couldn't figure out Iraq and Afghanistan, what makes you think we're going to figure out that? Oh, that's right. It's not George Bush and Obama. It's not this political bullshit machine that is worried about offending themselves. It is a isolationist president that will do anything to support Israel. And I think that is much better than being a no-brain politician that has a forever war and then tries to do regime change by arresting Saddam Hussein and then releasing him back to people that are part of the CIA so that they hang him. Like, we either kill these motherfuckers or we arrest them and we put them in prison in New York like we did with the Venezuelan guy. All of this is so quick. And I think that that's the only thing that's on our side right now, is that maybe there is a force penalty. Maybe there is a, we're going to keep fucking spanking you unless you just shut up, you take this Persian guy, he's your leader now, and you listen. Sometimes you got to spank the kid. And maybe this is the time for the spanking.
You have probably noticed is a naval force and an air force. And that is the operation. It is a naval and an air operation. We have not invaded Iran. We have not put boots on the ground. We don't have special forces there. There has not been a major coalition invasion. We don't have people parachuting in. How this operation is being conducted is with missiles launched from ships and with air power. It is with our carriers, which bring the air power to the region. It is with bombers, which have been stationed in other countries. It is an air and sea campaign. Now, this creates a conundrum here, because again, if the goal is the maximalist objective, which is to topple the Iranian regime, we are going all the way. Again, it's not about degrading their capabilities. It's not about weakening them. If the goal is to exterminate the Iranian regime, we're going all the way and toppling them. It raises the question, how is that going to be done with air and sea power alone? We now have the goal. We also now have the mode. We know what the Trump administration is seeking, and we know how they seek to achieve it. But the problem that is created is that historically, you cannot achieve a regime change through air and sea power alone.
But has there ever been a regime change that was successful by land? By putting a American naval base or army base in Afghanistan? Does that work? That doesn't really work either. I'm very skeptical of the regime change as well, because from my perspective, it looks like we just bombed the shit out of them, and we're like, there, you have freedom now, which is really crazy. But going on the ground doesn't really make it better.
Why is that? Because although you can bomb civilian government facilities, you can bomb military facilities, you can destroy the Navy, you can destroy hardware, anti-aircraft systems. On the other side of all of the bombing, there are still going to be 200,000 Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps soldiers, and they will be armed. On the other side of this, you are still going to have, all in, about 1 million Iranian security personnel between the IRGC, the Iranian armed forces, and the internal security forces. You can decapitate, you can cut off the head of the snake, you can kill some or half or all of the regime, you can blow up all of their major weapon systems. But on the other side of the bombing campaign, there will be a country of 90 million people, and the only apparatus in place to control those people with the use of force that is organized into a hierarchy behind an ideology with some semblance of legitimacy, with experience, it's going to be the very same Iranian regime. This is the problem.
I absolutely agree with Nick Fuentes on that one, because look what happened with Venezuela. We had our proxy president in Norway. We were supposed to go and put her into the Venezuelan president position, and instead we were like, Maduro second in command sounds good. But what's different about Trump versus other presidents, other administrations, is that at the end of the day, if you listen, you don't get bombs. So it's like, it's very easy. Like, it's not like, oh no, you're the enemy and we need to make this a democracy. It's like, I don't give a shit if you're a dictatorship. Women aren't wearing the hijabs. You're not allowed to kill 40,000 fucking citizens. Everyone gets to go to school. And if you listen to the rules, you get to keep your corrupt country. It's a much easier way of doing regime change than being like, oh, let's put this proxy person from CNN there.
Blow up their navy, destroy their missiles, decapitate the leadership. There's a chain of command. Other people will replace the leadership. And again, destroy the big weapons. The small weapons are still in the hands of the army. And unless you actually have an alternative invading force, whether that is a U.S. ground invasion, an invasion from a neighboring state, whether you have proxies from inside the country, sectarian groups, separatist groups, anti-government groups, unless there is an alternative force that is armed, that is numerous, that is organized, and is able to communicate, and unless that group has legitimacy and can earn the support of the country, well, all things considered, on the other side of the conflict, the most likely successor to the Iranian regime is the Iranian regime. It may not be the exact.
Yes, that's the difference. Nick Fuentes is showing us the difference between Donald Trump and everyone else. Yes, he is willing to keep the same people in charge. Yes, he is willing to not invade by ground. Because when you invade by ground, you essentially teach every kid from 2 years old all the way up the ladder to hate the American army, okay? So yeah, we don't go by ground. We bomb the shit out of them. You call them back up and you go, you're still in charge. You guys figure it out. You guys are still in charge. Do you want another bomb or not? Do you want another bomb or not? No more bombs? Then start listening to me, Daddy Trump.
Same people, but it will be the same security apparatus. And so this is the big conundrum here. We have deployed all the air and sea power. We've launched the operation. And by all appearances, we are winning this war. By all appearances. But appearances can be deceiving. If you watch the news, they report that there have been over 900 airstrikes, that the U.S. and Israel have air superiority in most of the country. We control the airspace. We have assassinated the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei.
Not only did we assassinate the Ayatollah, but Pakistan assassinated the head of the Taliban today. 2 for 1. 2 for 1.
Khamenei. We have assassinated some of the top military and civilian government leadership. We have probably, by the end of this, will have destroyed their entire navy, all of their missiles, all of their missile production facilities. and so on. And this is the operation. It appears that we are winning. People are saying this is a great success. And they say that perhaps the American public and the world will get with the program and rally behind this when they see the outcome, when they see the effectiveness of it. But that is where we stand under 24 hours into the operation. Where will we be when the bombs stop dropping? Where will we be in a week?
Waiting for a phone call. Because again, we didn't do what Obama and Bush's daddy did and Reagan did. We didn't send a bunch of people over there to build buildings and live there and try to teach them American customs until they came over and 9/11'd us to death. No, none of that. Osama bin Laden, it doesn't exist in this scenario because you grew up and you're just seeing bombs falling out of the sky, and then daddy has to call up Trump because there's nothing left. And when daddy calls up Trump, he has to negotiate. This is the way. Nick Fuentes is explaining to us essentially the way. There is skepticism, sure, but like if you're a believer that there's any kind of regime change, it might be Donald Trump dropping bombs from the sky and leaving. Because we're not sitting there with our soldiers telling them they need to build a McDonald's. We're waiting for a phone call.
I want to get into this article from the Wall Street Journal. We'll just read through this and talk about some of the details. And we'll talk a little bit more about what has happened in the past 24 hours. Then we'll get into some of the timeline, how we got here, and then answering this question where we're going. So this is from the Journal. It says, quote, President Trump and Israel launched attacks on Iran with the ambitious aim of bringing down the regime in Tehran, a goal that promises heavy use of force and which will rattle Gulf allies concerned about a wider regional war and instability on their doorstep. U.S. and Israeli forces went hard at Iran beginning early Saturday, attacking Iran's leaders and symbols of the regime, in addition to military assets that Iran would need to fight a war. Heavy strikes were expected to continue for days. Israeli strikes focused on high-value officials and Iran's missile capabilities, while the U.S. attacks went after military targets. In a speech posted on Truth Social, Trump said the strikes are weakening Iran's rulers and called on Iran's people to take the opening as a once-in-a-generation chance to topple the regime. He said, quote, when we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
Yeah, that's the strategy. That's what the strategy is. When this is all over, take your country. It's yours to take. Like, we don't care what happens next. We're not telling you to build a McDonald's. We're not going to sit here for 20 years and tell you you have to teach the women and all this bullshit. No, it's blow it up, give them a spanking. Okay, next time, you're not allowed to say anything about Israel. Okay? Don't be a shithead and be partners with China. Okay? You keep calling up Putin, dropping another bomb on you. But if you guys want to gather up and, figure out sticks and stones, how to rebuild, maybe we can give you some money. As long as you're a good goy. As long as you're going to be a good goy.
America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Don't let it pass. Now fighting for its survival, the Iranian regime launched a wave of missile attacks on U.S. military bases in some Gulf states as well as on Israel. Iranian missiles are headed towards bases in Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates. They've also been launched against Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Iraqi Kurdistan, and Israel. U.S. officials haven't yet outlined a plan for who would take control of Iran in the event that the regime falls, or how to avoid a chaotic power struggle among factions within the Iranian regime and its divided opposition. So this is what you need to understand about the dynamic here. And this is very important. We have to understand the security situation between Iran, Israel, and the United States. Israel has been principally concerned with Iran's nuclear program, its proxies, and its missiles. Now, more on this in a moment. We'll get back into this equation here.
All right, we're gonna let him go for a minute and everything, and watch what he's saying. But I just want to take a little break right now. Again, hit that subscribe button. I drop 10 different YouTube shorts every single day about pop culture, the news, Joe Rogan, Kill Tony, whatever. It's primarily libertarian focused. If libertarian is a thing anymore, I don't fucking know. But yeah, do that and all that jazz. We're gonna listen to Nick Fuentes, but I just did want to point out the big difference between me and Nick Fuentes. Again, if you weren't here at the top of the stream, I went over this, which is Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk, Kanye West, myself. We all grew up in the suburbs of Chicago when Obama was elected in 2008. And in our adolescent years, Nick Fuentes is the youngest of us, but in 2012, all four of those individuals full-heartedly supported in Iowa Ron Paul in 2012, the libertarian candidate. That felt right. And I think that it's because we were the first people seeing the inauthenticity of the Democratic DNC machine, the RNC machine, that would later take Ron Paul down and drive his people around in a bus in Miami and not let them speak, as Mitt Romney did his speech. But yeah, here we are. And the one thing that I will say now, though, is that Charlie Kirk was the person that took Trump's side through all of it. So he got all the money, all the praise. Nick Fuentes, at the same time, had the same amount of oomph about him, but got completely ostracized by Tiny Horse McGee, Ben Shapiro. And as far as me, I don't like wearing a suit. So I'm going to smoke this blunt, all right? But let's watch Nick Fuentes.
This war, unlike last year, is specifically focused on Iran's missiles. Last year, the U.S. and Israel took out Iran's nuclear program. We destroyed their biggest centrifuge facilities. We apparently made their stockpile of highly enriched uranium inaccessible. Arguably, we set back the program several years, and we increased Iran's breakout time from when they might decide to make a nuclear weapon to when they acquire one from weeks to possibly years. And so we neutralized that deterrent capability of Iran. In this war, we're going after their missile program. Iran has built thousands of ballistic missiles, which are being intercepted as we speak, but if launched in a surprise attack in large enough volleys, may not be able to be intercepted. And so this is the only military capability that Iran has to defend itself. Its air defenses, its air force, its navy are completely inferior to the United States and Israel. However, it is their mass production of cheap ballistic missiles, and they source components from China and Russia, and they're making hundreds of them all the time. It is this massive stockpile and capability to mass produce missiles which truly threatens Israel and the United States. If Israel and the United States engage in operations, and you're seeing it today, Iran can launch missiles, and not all of them, but a small percentage can actually strike at Israeli and American civilian or.
Okay, so this is really interesting because, yes, the Iron Dome did get hit today. And then there was a report, one person injured. No casualties, one person in Tel Aviv injured. So
government sites. And this is the only capability that Iran has. That's sort of their only resort if Israel and America attack. So the purpose of this war, what Trump said specifically in the speech, is to destroy their capability to make missiles and destroy their missile stockpiles. Now, this gives us some clues here because, again, when you think about the kind of force that is deployed in the region and the goals, it doesn't work. We're bombing the big stuff, But in 4 days, in a week, in 2 weeks, when this is all over, who is at this point the most likely contender to take power? It's not going to be.
It doesn't matter, because the next person that takes power ain't gonna fuck around and find out.
The Iranian people. Because the Iranian people are not organized, they're not armed, they don't have backing from a superpower patron, or at the minimum, coordinating with them on the ground. Have to assume some of that is happening, but we haven't seen any real movement take hold, least of all in the protests last month. So the people cannot spontaneously get together and form a new government. If that's the case, then in a week or 2 weeks' time after the bombs start dropping, the only force that is even capable of picking up the pieces of enforcing any semblance of order in the country will be the same security apparatus as before. It's going to be the Revolutionary Guard. It's going to be the army.
I don't know if Nick Fuentes is just trying to entertain, or if he really wants to just sound like a liberal today. But he's just complaining like an anti-war liberal. Like he's like, you thought you'd do regime change, but it's not going to be regime change. Again, like the concept is still the same, which is like, you're not going to do what the Ayatollah did. You're not going to do it again. Because you know that if you do, you're going to get the same result again. Like, that's what's different here. We don't care about the regime change. The regime change is the liberal perspective that we're going to put some transgender lady in charge of fucking Iran now or something. Like, nobody's trying to fantasize that, like, Israel's in charge of Iran now. Carpet bomb? I'll wait for the phone call.
Armed forces, it's going to be the besieged. Now, perhaps the Trump administration is counting on the survivors of this attack being more pliable. Very similar to Venezuela. What did Trump do in Venezuela? Well, he picked up Maduro, and the vice president, the second in command, just filled his spot. We didn't even necessarily destroy their entire military. We didn't destroy their armed forces. We killed about 100 palace guards, Cuban intelligence, and Venezuelan security forces, kidnapped Maduro in the hopes that the successor, who was a part of the same apparatus, would be more open to negotiating. And they see what happens to the president. They see what the United States is.
Nick is giving the perception as though it's not reality. Like, he's like, well, the hope is that they will be open to talking to us. Yeah, because we just killed the leader. Like, there's two options when it comes to who rises next in Iran. You're either going to get somebody that's going to go, I'm Adolf Hitler and I'm going to run over everybody, which again, then we just carpet bomb next. Wait for the phone call. Or you get somebody that has a little bit of common sense and they go, wait a minute. Russia and China fucking suck, and they fucked us. Let's talk to this Trump guy instead. And when it comes to that, it doesn't matter who the leader is. It doesn't matter if it's the same regime, as long as they're on the side of America and Israel. Also, just want to point this out too. UK and fucking France came in on this war. All right? They both made statements. Everybody blaming Israel and America. We had the bombs, but UK and France supported it.
Capable of, and they realize that you can't win this one. Your defensive capabilities will not work. You cannot inflict pain on the United States. It is utter domination. You are crushed. And so the choice of the vice president is you're either going to go the way of Maduro and die or be imprisoned, or you're going to find a way to work with the United States. And that's the model. And it is telling that these two operations have happened so close to one another. It was just not even 2 months ago, that the United States pursued a faux regime change in Venezuela. Is it a true regime change? Well, the entire security apparatus.
Right. The entire security apparatus is still intact. And then after 2 months with this Venezuela thing, we realize, fuck, we can do this in fucking the Middle East. This is working. It stabilized their government. They're now going to let us go in and take oil, and we're going to let them have all of their people still. As in, like, let their people live still. And also, they get to have their government and eat their cake and all that bullshit, guys. This is the way you regime change. You carpet bomb and you wait for the phone call. And I think right now, something Nick kind of pointed at, which is like these attacks are so close together. Pakistan last night around 11 p.m. Central Time, so about 3 hours before Trump's announcement on Twitter, Pakistan announced that they were declaring war officially on the country of Afghanistan. While all of this shit's going on and everybody's like, Israel, 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 because everybody's got TikTok brain, the leader of the Taliban was also eliminated today by Pakistan. Now, Pakistan did house Osama bin Laden, so we can't say that they're really our friend. But apparently they were our friend because that's how we were able to go in and zero dark 30 that motherfucker. China has ties to Pakistan. Here's my theory. Maybe these people that are being eliminated, these countries that are being bombed, that they're not playing ball with the globe. And if you want a top negotiator for the globe for your country, there is no better guy than Donald Trump. The bullying, the tactics, the way in which you speak, that's it. He wins. And I think Trump understands the game of risk that he's essentially playing here. Don't you remember when the Saudi prince came to the White House and the lady tried to ask about the journalist that had been murdered, and he just was like, you don't need to answer that. You don't even need to answer it. It's because he needed fundamental support on this operation. So that when Iran bombs Saudi Arabia just throws her hands up and goes, it's okay. It's okay. The people on our side are going to, Trump's got us. And who's to say that we're not on the same team as China in some way when it comes to, and even potentially Russia, when it comes to these crazies? The guy that was in charge of Afghanistan in the Taliban, this guy wouldn't let women go to school. I had a stand-up comedian in New York. She fled Afghanistan when she was 8. Okay, so during American occupation and everything, didn't flee to America though. She went to Canada. She lived in Toronto, and then went to New York. And then she, when Joe Biden pulled out, started teaching Afghan girls online secretly because you weren't allowed to go to school anymore at all. They were running tourist ads with AK-47s telling Americans to come visit the Taliban's Afghanistan. Do you think that maybe the people that run the world, that want McDonald's everywhere, might be together on this one and thinking, let's get rid of the guy? And the ultimate get rid of the guy is the loose cannon, the fucking Ayatollah himself. We're not eliminating Putin. We're not eliminating the head of China. No. No regime change needed there, even though they're against us. These people, I say regime change is like, you're going to spin in your head. This is just everyone that is in charge of the world going, not that guy. It's like Gaddafi. Like, everybody in Africa loved Gaddafi. And then we killed him. by putting a metal rod up his ass.
Apparatus remains in place. The Chavista government remains in place. It is Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president, who now rules the country with the same defense minister, the same intelligence minister. So it's a decapitation without a regime change. It's a form of persuasion, aggressive negotiations. We took your leader and now we've left you with no options. Perhaps this is the formula in Iran. Decapitate the regime, kill the Ayatollah, kill the top IRGC commanders, make them vulnerable and defenseless, remove hope from the equation. Without a navy, without missiles, without their high-ranking security personnel, they must realize they are completely vulnerable. They are completely defenseless and completely open. Is that perhaps the calculation? That whoever, whether it's the second, third, fourth, fifth guy in the chain of command, whoever survives, when that person...
Someone said North Korea, and that's interesting, right? That's an interesting one. Is North Korea next? Because, like, yeah, you would think, okay, if my theory is right, then, like, you definitely have to do North Korea. And otherwise, you got to build a conspiracy theory specifically for North Korea, being like, oh, well, it's allowed to do its thing because, like, that's what it's doing, or fucking some crazy shit. Maybe there was, like, some kind of communist experiment there for a while, but their only ally at this point is definitely Russia. I don't think China would give a fuck. And if China is funding Pakistani operations to eliminate the Taliban leader, and Donald Trump is the president of the United States, it might be time to go for Kim Jong-un. I'm just saying, like, duck and cover if you live in Hawaii, but, because, like, it's definitely not going to get all the way to California, but Hawaii, maybe, they don't have enough accuracy. It would just land in the ocean. Maybe Kim Jong-un is next.
Rises above. Maybe it's some other faction or element in the security services. Whoever survives and claims to speak for the remnant of the Iranian regime, maybe the Trump administration is counting on that person simply being willing to negotiate. And you leave the internal security apparatus in place. You don't go like you did in Iraq and put them all on trial and kill all of them and de-Baathify them, re-educate them and reintegrate them or something like that. But you simply swap out an obstinate leader with a more...
Nick Fuentes is too smart to not... Nobody's given him the perspective of just carpet bomb and wait for a phone call, because he's literally sitting here going like, well, maybe you put in somebody that's okay. Can they replace it? Yeah, or maybe not. That's what I would say. Has anybody successfully done that? Been able to put somebody else in charge? If anybody ever can find that out, put that in the chat for us, guys. Because I would like to know, is there a world leader that is world leader either now or in history that another government basically funded and specifically said, you're now the leader. And everybody was like, okay. Because I don't think it's ever worked. And of course it would be like George W. Bush that thought that that was a good idea. But the idea of just not caring who's next and just having your list of demands, that kind of works. Like, well, the last guys, they fucked around and they found out because we had these 5 things and you have to on the 5 beats. But I need to call this person out because this is why I came back to the chat. Aquarius Sun 6424. Who knows if she's still in here or not? But if you are, feel free to chat with me. There's a little delay on my chat, but I do want to talk to you for a second. How about the Americans and Israelis stay the hell out of the Middle East and Iran? One, Israel is in the Middle East, okay? So, too much TikTok brain, too much anti Israel, okay? As for America, are you in America? Because if you're in America, this is exactly what my Muslim friend said, that literally is from Afghanistan, that teaches children like on Skype illegally because the Taliban wouldn't let him go to school. She said, all I've gotten all day is white bitches from New York calling me up, telling me I don't have a right to speak this way and support Donald Trump, and that they can't understand or comprehend that everyone in the Middle East, yeah, we don't appreciate the bombs, but at the same time, it would be nice as a woman to be able to go to school. And I'm just saying, like, we're thinking here, this might be the ultimate strategy for Donald Trump. I don't care who's in charge. I'm not trying to replace people. I'm not playing politics like Nick Fuentes or any of these other politicians. I'm just being a human being here, and I'm thinking to myself, 5 rules. You gotta have money. Everybody's gotta have a job, including women and men. You can't have rules about religion that, like, specifically murder people and shit. Everyone's allowed to talk bad about your government, and you can't just shoot them in the street. And 5, we need your oil. Most importantly, we need your oil. And as long as you file these 5 things, we're all good. Because I'm not a politician. I'm just here to tell you 5 rules. That's it. Just listen to the 5 rules.
Client leader, and you work on a new understanding where the Iranian regime can cooperate with the United States. Now, here are the problems with this way of thinking. Again, you're not going to remove an entrenched regime with air and sea power alone. The Trump administration knows that. The Department of War knows that. They know that if they really wanted to replace all these people, they would need a rival security service, political faction, and nothing of that sort exists. There are people that oppose the regime. There are other claimants to rule Iran, but none of
like a true politician, Nick Fuentes. Because that's what you do when you're a politician. You're like, well, we need to put a new politician in. Let's look at the political parties that are here in Iran. You know what Trump thinks? The same thing I think, which is Ayatollah said bad things about women, killed 40,000 citizens. Ayatollah, bye. You do the rest. You guys do the rest. I don't give a fuck about looking through the political parties and picking out my favorite one and trying to CIA you up to the top. I don't give a fuck. This guy killed 40,000 citizens. Bye. Now you guys figure out what you want to do. That's the strategy here. Because if you do that, everybody goes, well, that's just chaos. Sure, they can have a civil war over freedom. And if that civil war, they lose the freedom and they go back to another Ayatollah, then we just bomb the shit out of them again. Like, you gotta just listen. It's a spanking. That's what's going on here. This is not what Nick Fuentes and the rest of these politicians think it is. You don't just eliminate the leader and, okay, now let's see here. We have the Socialist Party of Iran. We have the Republican Party of Iran. We have the Democratic Party. No. I don't give a fuck. Y'all do that.
them have the necessary support. None of them have the necessary organization or weapons. So it looks very unlikely that, again, any force other than a remnant of the Iranian security apparatus will rule afterward. And you have to expect that the Trump administration knows that. And so perhaps this is the expectation. They
Actually, AP, I got to call you out, AP, because that is a really great comment. Um, it totally slipped on me when I'm listing off the 5 rules of Donald Trump or whatever. But most importantly, this may truly be like, instead of it being some crazy conspiracy about nuclear weapons, it might truly be that. And that might be why this is all happening so quickly. And we have allies, like, again, China's against us. China funds Pakistan's army. Pakistan went in today and declared war against Afghanistan and eliminated the Taliban leader. At the same time that we were doing this, we both did one. Whoa. Okay? And maybe, just maybe, what they say on the news is true, which is there were 2 crazies who were trying to get nuclear weapons, and we decided, no. Maybe it was that simple.
Will pound Iran, hit them so hard, again, make them utterly defenseless, so that there is not even the delusion, there is not even the myth that Iran is going to be striking a carrier with a hypersonic missile, that Iran is going to destroy Israel with thousands of missiles in a huge volley. And they will have to come to terms and negotiate with the United States on our terms.
What do you do with all of the weird beards that still want 15 wives? Again, you gotta let them do their lives. You just gotta have the rules. So none of these wives are allowed to be a little boy or a little girl. Okay? Meaning, like, you gotta, like, let's say 14 is an international law. That sounds okay for international. But you got to put a bare minimum standard, and then you're just like, just don't cross that line. And if they cross the line, boom, bomb, done. Do it again, over and over and over again. Rinse, repeat until they listen. And when it comes to the 15 wives, I was going to say this, Nick Incel, that kind of goes into the comment as well, which is, I was going for a hike today, and I was thinking about 3 people and how having a wife would change their life forever, okay? Asmongold. If Asmongold had a wife, life changed forever. If Nick Fuentes has a wife, life changed forever. If Sneeko gets a wife, maybe he just gets like a bunch more wives and he still does a live stream with, like, I feel like Sneeko is going to be okay, like, later on in life. But Nick Fuentes and Asmongold, man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to agree with their politics once a woman gets a hold of them. Because I know what happens. I know what happens. Because you slowly start, hey, you got to just, I don't care about your politics. You just got to eat well. Okay, you just watch. It's a quick way to become a vegan. You just start listening to your wife.
Well, here's the problem with this way of thinking. Famously, Tucker Carlson challenged Ted Cruz, who was in favor of an operation like this, and said, how many people live in Iran? And Ted Cruz had no idea. And he dismissed that and said, that's trivia. That's a trivial detail. What does it matter how many people live there? Well, it actually matters quite a bit, because a country 3 times the size of Iraq, with 90 million people and 1 million soldiers, is not actually going to be subdued by bombs. What happens the day or the week after Iran's military is utterly destroyed? Well, probably chaos breaks out. Probably people are going to try to flee, and the borders are going to destabilize. Probably people are going to rush to the stores and try to stock up on essentials, which will cause the economy to effectively collapse. There will be looting. There will be chaos. There will be a lapse in critical infrastructure, public services. You're looking at the bottom falling out from the country, and that will actually create a vacuum. It will actually embolden and buttress the Iranian security force, because there will be a need for order, and only that force will be able to provide it. What's more, here's the other problem with this. So Iran's security force is going to be there. attacking Iran, bombing all their cities, killing potentially hundreds, maybe thousands of civilians. What effect does that?
So the guy that will say more slurs than I will is over here being all high and mighty about civilian casualties. I'm sorry, Nick. That's a little much of a stretch. Cause like I'm not gonna say it on YouTube, but I would say the F word. But in my personal life, I never say the N word. It's just it doesn't fit my vocabulary. The fact that you say both and then you're gonna be like, oh no, civilian casualties. Which is like a level below saying what? Like trying to think of like a level below saying the word cunt. Is that allowed? I think you're allowed to still say cunt. I'm in America. I think you're allowed to say cunt. If I was in the UK, probably be getting raided right about now.
Have on the resolve of Iranians and of the Iranian political leadership. If it's a remnant of the Iranian security forces, who is to say that these?
That question right there, nerd dog. Oh my God, yes. I've been saying this since I saw it. Okay, I'm like, the first thing I thought was like, man, I wonder if I can like swindle Mark Ruffalo into like funding a documentary about this school or something. And then I was like, wait a minute, why is this school next to a military base? And then I think to myself, maybe it's because it's the children of the leaders of the problem in the first place. And again, like, sometimes you gotta go episode 3 on their ass. You gotta just take them out, Anakin style. I don't see that as a bad thing if what it leads to is just don't make me backhand you.
These people, the survivors who just watched their friends, colleagues, leaders, spiritual figures get murdered in a war of aggression, who is to say those people are now going to roll over for the United States? Perhaps that works in Venezuela, a much smaller country in terms of territory and population, ruled over by corrupt people with no real ideology, not religious zealots, not even particularly nationalistic, maybe not even ideological anymore, but just plutocrats, just crony socialists or something. Maybe that works in Venezuela.
That is very true. The Persians are not and have never been Muslims. These people have been hijacked by the Muslims for decades. Yes, if you really want to know, like, or understand it, the best movie to watch is The Message. It's a movie from the 70s called The Message, and they don't actually show Muhammad because it's a pro Muslim film, but it's American actors in English, and it shows basically what was happening in the Middle East and how Muhammad and these people of the Muslim faith kind of took over that area. And that's the claim. And then you got, after that, Mr. Jimmy Carter, 1979, and the movie Argo, which shows you essentially what happens when you pull a Joe Biden in the 70s and the Muslims really take over. But again, Persians is what we really should be calling most of the people in that area, because that's a race. Muslims not a race.
Venezuela, where they're more worried about their personal enrichment or survival. But in Iran, a regime that is literally created by religious police, secret police, a vanguard revolutionary paramilitary with an eschatological opinion and interpretation of their own country and its role in the future of the universe, Who is to
Yeah, the message is essentially like the same. Like the message is like the Ten Commandments for the movie The Ten Commandments for Muslims. So it's kind of like a old school '70s Hollywood depiction of how the Muslim faith became the Muslim faith. But what it really shows you is the kind of geographical takeover or like the forced takeover of that area within the faith from like the Christian and other people, because that's what it really was from what I can understand. I just recently discovered that Muslims were an Abrahamic religion, which is essentially the same. It's all the same fucking Bible. It's all the same story, Adam and Eve. So it's you got the Jewish Bible, and then you have Jesus, and kind of pushing away from that because again they're a bunch of Jews sitting in a fucking synagogue going, "No, only I get to do this," and Jesus was like, "The Romans are coming and they don't believe in shit, so maybe we should all just be good and nice to each other." They crucify him, and again, the principle of even a person with that kind of brain, like a beautiful, beautiful human being, whether you believe Jesus Christ is the Savior or not, he did save the people of the Middle East in that time period because he put it in their brains that you didn't need to be a Roman sinner and you didn't need to just follow the faith and the laws of the Jewish faith. You could go, okay, I'm going to read the Jewish faith and believe in God, but I'm going to also realize that I don't have to fucking do all the bad things. I can just try to be a good fucking person. And then cut to 600 years later, and the Muslim faith was Muhammad, who's like a guy who is basically like the DVD salesman for like when they used to like sell DVDs in like New York and shit for like you get bootleg movie. Yeah, he was like a bootleg DVD movie salesman in the Middle East, like 600 years after Jesus. And everybody's like, this guy is very trustworthy and he's very quiet and he's very awesome. And then he like whispered to a friend and he was like, "Yo, ain't nobody fucking being good and like godly. Everybody's just sinning." And then like his friends would whisper back at him and be like, "The reason he's sinning is because Jesus said you can just get forgiven." And then Muhammad like went to a fucking cave like Joseph Smith did and had like a bunch of other people depict the Quran for him, in which he like dictated a bunch of laws that we as essentially Christians now as Goy members of the Bible believe in. So if you really look at that, it's like it's all the fucking same shit. They're all just fighting over fucking bullshit, guys. It's crazy. It's like, okay, Jews write principles. Everybody's like, stop fucking being a Jew and telling me I have to listen to all your bullshit laws. And they're like, I can be forgiven if I do something wrong. You're not going to just like kill me just because I did something wrong. All right. But then all the sin starts happening because people try exploiting that. And you're like in all this debauchery, which is kind of where we're at right now. And then you get somebody like Donald Trump, get somebody like Muhammad Donald Trump. And then that person puts the fucking laws of the land down and goes, look, you can do this, but we have to focus on God. We have to da-da-da-da-da, and these have to be the fucking laws of the land. I don't know a lot about the Muslim faith because I'm just starting to learn about it, but that's kind of my interpretation of all of it, and it kind of blew my mind. It definitely blew my mind when I found out that it was an Abrahamic religion. Because in my perspective, I was like, it makes so much more sense to be able to like fight like Hindus are fighting these guys, but it doesn't in reality, because like if you have completely different faiths, then you're not going to argue. It's over the fucking semantics of it all that you're bombing each other.
Say that the remnant of that security service is not going to be more hardcore than what came before. Who's to say that they will not be more emboldened and their resolve won't be hardened after the strikes? And maybe they don't negotiate then. So what happens the day after? Obviously, then this remnant, whether they're in favor or against the United States, they will seek to rebuild. Just as the Iranian regime after Midnight Hammer began to rebuild the nuclear infrastructure and their missile capability, you have to imagine that the remnant of the Iranian security forces is going to try to rebuild also. It may be a much taller order and basically impossible, but we have to entertain the scenario, maybe the most likely scenario, that hardliners come to power, they retain control of the country rather than an uprising of the people, and they go to work building more missiles and the military. So what does the United States do then? Do they allow Iran to keep going? Do they allow Iran to rebuild and reconstitute on a long enough timeline? Maybe not in months or weeks, but over the course of many years. Obviously not. This gets back to that security equation. What was stopping Israel and the United States before from intervening in Iran? What was preventing us from doing this 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What prevented us from doing this is that we thought Iran was going to build a nuclear bomb. And if we invaded and if we tried to topple the regime, maybe before we were successful, they would have a nuclear bomb. And then they might use it. Then we're in trouble. Missiles, not a big deal. Nuclear bomb on top of a missile, that would pose a problem for Israel and the United States. So that is a deterrent that prevented us from operating in Iranian territory. But it was also their ballistic missile program. Maybe the United States wasn't willing to go in, but Israel always.
I do want to point out this about Nick Fuentes and most people on the right. We are at least on the right fucking side of this thing. Because the people protesting for Iran, saying we shouldn't go in and do anything at all, they're not doing what Nick Fuentes is doing. They're not saying, well, the regime change is going to be hard and we don't know. Like, they're probably just going to come back and do it again and we're going to waste all this money and we really shouldn't waste all this money. It's a very Rand Paul perspective. I understand. But the thing is that in reality, I think that we're going to, we're, I don't fucking know. I'll go back to you.
Wanted to go into Iran. They were worried about the nuclear program, but they're also worried about the missiles, as you saw last year. When Israel forced our hand to intervene in Iran, it was Israel that had to tap out. It was they that had to plead with Washington to intervene to bring an end to the conflict because Israel was being bombarded with wave after wave.
That's what I was going to say. It's not like the one perspective that's wrong here, no matter what, is the perspective of the people that are defending Iran. Okay? Because as Nick has pointed out, even as somebody that's against the war points out, the thing that stopped us or prevented us from doing this was the fact that they might have a nuclear arsenal and shoot it at us. They didn't have one today. And what did they do, though? They bombed the fucking Kuwait airport. They fucking shot a missile into a Saudi Arabian hotel. Like, they went balls to the motherfucking walls. And I think that kind of proves that the intel was right. That these people are crazy enough to potentially use a nuclear weapon on somebody against them. And I think that that's always been the deterrent of the nuclear weapon is unless you have a government that's stable enough to allow for only people that would never use it and to only use it as protection, then you don't deserve to have one. And the whole Iran nuclear deal with Obama kind of threw that through the whoop and was like, well, you know what? Just let them fucking have one anyway so that we can stop fucking fighting each other. And I think the tactic of let's eliminate anybody that we think would use a nuclear bomb all in one day with China's help and Pakistan, eliminating the Taliban leader in Afghanistan, which is being overshadowed by all of this, that maybe, just maybe, it might be about people that could actually do a nuclear missile. And they were like, we're going to just get rid of these motherfuckers. And when it comes to North Korea, maybe China knows a little bit more than we do. Or, like, you think they would, right? They'd be like, oh, well, we know, and they don't really have the power for it. I feel like he's just playing with toys. I don't think he really has a nuclear missile. Because if he did, he'd probably fucking use it. Or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he wouldn't ever use it. And they all know that. And that's why they'll, like, Trump will sit down and talk to Kim Jong-un and shit. It's because it's all kind of a show that they're like this evil thing because of communism, when in reality, he's just a dictator that kind of makes everybody else in the entire country slaves, and he doesn't really have any power, and he thinks that he has nuclear missiles, or he does, but he's not going to ever really use them, just like the rest of us. And he also has a family lineage that is pretty clear that we know the people that are going to become in charge of North Korea are probably never going to use that missile. But Iran kind of proved today that if they had a missile, they would have fucking launched it. They would have fucking launched it. So the argument that Iran, like, oh, defend Iran, don't ever defend Iran. Iran would have shot us with a nuclear missile if they had the ability to.
Of hundreds of Iranian ballistic missiles, drones, cruise missiles, and they were running out of interceptors to shoot them down. So why could Israel not intervene over Iran's skies? Because if they did, they would be bombarded with missiles and it would shut down their country. It's a very small country with not a lot of population centers, and it's hard to have commerce. It's hard to keep people there if your airports and your cities and residential buildings are being hit with hypersonic ballistic missiles. So Israel could not intervene unless the missiles were destroyed. Are you seeing where this is going? Now that Iran's nuclear hedge has been obliterated by Midnight Hammer last year and the operation today, now that its missile capacity has been severely degraded and its navy, which might be able to close the Strait of Hormuz, now Iran is truly defenseless. And what this does is it creates...
Yeah, chat. I think what we're all experiencing is that through our conversation and through watching this and the knowledge of what happened to the Taliban leader today, Russia and China were in on this operation just as much as, probably more so, than the UK and France. I wouldn't even put it past Trump to do this without their approval, without the EU's approval, and then for the EU to have to come out this morning and make their own statements and act like they're part of the war to be a part of the program. To be like, well, we're going to do it too, we're going to do it too. And this could have literally been a phone call, a four-way phone call between the leaders of China, Russia, Israel, and America to eliminate any nuclear threats within a 12-hour period. That's what it seems like this whole thing was.
Options for further engagement. So you might think this is the climax, this is the be-all, end-all, just as you might have thought the climax was last year. That this is it. This is the war to topple the regime. I don't think so. I think that when we look back in history, this will be characterized as yet another operation to degrade Iran's military capabilities, just like Midnight Hammer, just like the other operations, just like the industrial sabotage, assassinating the scientists, just like all these other operations. This is about systematically defeating in detail Iran's military so that we can open up a front against Iran in perpetuity.
It's that second part that becomes the Jewish conspiracy theory that I just can't get behind. It's that second part that I hope that, Mr. Nick Fuentes is wrong about. Because I agree that this is why we did it. Like, we did it to eliminate the nuclear threat, and it was to deteriorate the military. And if the military rises back up again and decides they're going to continue to do this, we'll probably yet again have to do the same thing. And we'll probably have to, fight off any kind of terrorist sleeper cells that become after a new government. But I think everybody's learned the lesson in regime change. You guys do what you need to do. And I think that's kind of what Nick's getting at, is like Nick is saying, like, this is just an operation. It's telling the military, hey, your move. And we told you, one rule: no nuclear weapon for you. And then they do. What did we do? We eliminated the top 40 people from their military, including the leader. So, like, it might cause chaos. It might. It's the same thing as the fucking shit that happened over in Mexico, where we killed the cartel leader. I don't care who's. Nobody's, like, you know what I mean? Like, politicians do this thing where they go, well, who's going to be in charge next? And that matters. Nobody gave a fuck who's going to be in charge of the cartel next. They were just like, shit, the cartel is bombing all of Mexico because we killed the leader. Nobody was like, who's next for the cartel? Who do you replace the cartel with? No, you just, bad guy, gone. And I think that that's kind of what this was like, the deterioration of that. And that's what I mean. I don't agree with that second part, because Nick is building the Jewish Israel conspiracy theory after that by being like, all right, you know what? And then after we deteriorate the army, then we can make them the perpetual person that we're against the whole time. And it's like, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. If we're trying to deteriorate their army, it's so that we can gain control. I guess Nick is trying to theorize that, like, Israel will literally, like, try to take Iran. But in a modern world, you just don't do that. You just make sure that the people that are in charge of it have the same customs as you, and that they're willing to trade and give you the things that you want. It's a much easier way of working, because when you try to change land borders, you get World War I and World War II. So you don't need to change the land borders. We've learned those fucking lessons. I just don't believe that second part. That Israel is trying to just, property own Iran? I don't understand.
So, in short, what happens when Iran's security force takes back control over the country? And maybe it's led by a hardliner, maybe it's led by another reformer. Well, if diplomacy fails, now Israel and the United States, we can operate in Iran with impunity. If Iran doesn't play ball when this is over in 6 months, in a year, it costs us nothing to intervene. And this is the operational goal, which is to achieve the same situation in Iran as you had in Syria for 15 years. In the same way that Israel took control of Syria's skies and airspace and launched airstrikes constantly, degrading the Assad regime and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard there, Israel seeks to open up the exact same front in Iran. This is not the end. This is actually just the beginning of a new chapter. This is another operational strike to further degrade Iran's military so that there can be future operations. And the ultimate goal is the regime change. The ultimate goal, I imagine.
I think he's thinking too much like a politician right now. He wants to build this conspiracy that we want to have a Jewish overlord in Iran. I don't think that's true. I think we want Iran to have what they had in 1979, man. They can have it again. Hey boss, have you considered letting some people call you one-on-one Discord to start conversation with some other people in politics? I'm new to your channel, so I don't know if you've done this before. No, I've never done that, but yeah, if you want to let me know how we can get that hooked up. But yeah, for sure. There are 93 million people in Iran. Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't think you're gonna fucking put a Jew in charge of Iran. I don't. I mean, it sounds like we're starting to lose the plot, guy.
Imagine is to eventually create a situation, either at the end of this or some other operation in the future, where through CIA and Mossad backing, Shin Bet, whoever, they are going to back a liberal democratic force. They will back some rival claimant. They will eventually replace the Iranian regime, and then that Iranian regime will be subordinated to Israel in exactly the same way as has happened to Syria and to Iraq and to other countries. I think that is the ultimate goal. And that is the situation as it stands. I think that is what is happening today, and I think that is what will happen in the immediate future. Now, I want to talk about something very specific here. We have to be precise about why we oppose this war. What we're looking at right now, it looks like a military success. Again, and appearances can be deceiving, but that is what it looks like. The U.S. and Israel are just having their way. They are dropping bombs. As far as we know, nothing has been shot down. No Americans have been killed. And although Iran has retaliated with missile strikes on the Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Israel, even though they've launched a lot of missiles at all these countries, it doesn't seem that it's done a ton of damage, or if there are unreported casualties, it doesn't seem they are substantial. And Iran's ability to defend itself or respond has been vastly exaggerated. There was this idea for a time that we would lose this war, that we don't know what we're in for. Operation True Promise, number 72 is on its way, and this time they're serious. This time the missiles are going to hit. Everybody was saying this, that we're going to lose this war. They're going to sink a carrier. It's going to deal a psychological blow to us. It'll be a Vietnam. Well, it's leaving one part out, which is if we don't put ourselves in harm's way, we win. We move the troops out of the bases within range of their missiles and they don't die. We don't invade and drive around their country in Humvees. Nobody's getting exploded. The only ability for Iran to respond might be a false flag terror attack or a real terror attack by an Iranian cell in Europe or the United States. Outside of that, they have no real ability to hurt any strategic American targets. Now, this is something that we have to contend with, because if the Trump administration is successful, let's be honest here, if we pull this off without a hitch, let's say we destroy Iran's military and no Americans die, then that is a true miracle. That is truly impressive. If the United States confronts Iran like this, we hit them so hard and we don't lose a single plane, ship, helicopter, we don't lose a single life. And Iran, which was propped up to be this huge threat and a regional player, well, this is a victory. No doubt about it. In the purest possible terms, the United States has achieved its strategic objectives. We will have destroyed Iran's proxy network. Hezbollah is not even intervening. The Houthis are not making an impact. The Popular Mobilization Force in Iraq is not doing anything. Hamas is defeated. They're a non-player. And Iran, after this, may have no military, may have no leadership. We just killed their leaders. And if we do that without losing a single life or piece of equipment, then the United States can claim victory. They can say, we did it, mission accomplished. And what will then be the argument? Well, I can already see that a lot of people that are opposed to this conflict are talking about blowback, foreign wars, the cost, all these things. Are calling Trump a hypocrite. They say, well, there's going to be unintended consequences. Iran will turn into a failed state. They say Iran might retaliate with terrorism or missiles and Americans will die. And how's that putting America first? And they might say perhaps this will cost a lot of money. And they'll say a lot of things in this category. But intellectually, we have to deal with the fact that this is not Iraq. It isn't. Iraq was a ground invasion. It was a true nation-building operation. It was true regime change. de-Baathification, putting the culprits of the war crimes on trial, creating a new government security apparatus, a new political culture, and then having to maintain order between rival tribes and rival sects of Islam. And that cost a lot of money and a lot of lives. It took a lot of time. This is something else. If we bomb them into submission, this is going to be very light on the loss of human life on our side and in terms of cost. It's going to be marginal. It's not going to cost us $3 trillion. And in the end, I think it's also not going to take as long to get what we came for there. We have to deal with this. Now, if that is the case, what's the argument? You can't just take the talking points from Iraq and use them about Iran. Why not? Because if you do, you lose the debate. If you have people...
Absolutely. If anyone from the U.S. government tries to show you anything to do with Iraq in reference to this operation, it's time to get scared.
Hysterically screaming and saying, well, what about Americans are going to die? Well, what if no Americans die? What's your argument then? What do you say to Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin then if hardly any Americans die? And I know that sounds terrible, but if we destroy Iran's regime and, maybe a dozen American soldiers die, the American public will look at that and say, that's worth it. That is what the American public will say. It's just true. And you don't have to like that, but that's the reality. And if in the end the cost is marginal, let's say we get what we want in a short span of time and it doesn't cost us even $100 billion. People are going to say that's a victory. People are going to say, you know what? This isn't nation building. This isn't costing us money. We're not dying for Israel. They're going to say we defeated a regime which actually is oppositional. They don't like us. They're Islamist. They're aligned with the other axis, with Russia and China. The American public are going to be susceptible to the argument that this is a great victory. So what do you say then? The hysterics are not going to work. The talking points are not going to work. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying you can't argue against this. I'm against this. But I'm saying we have to understand why we're against this. Why are we against regime change in Iran? Well, yes, a refugee crisis is a concern. Iran descending into a failed state is a concern. It becoming a hotbed of terrorism is a concern. The loss of life in Iran or on the part of Americans, cost, mission creep, all those things are concerns. But these are all probabilities and likelihoods. What happens if or when America just wins this one really hard? If it happens, well, then you need to understand the problem here. Why are we fighting in Iran? It's not about nukes. It's not about missiles. The reason that we were brought into this engagement is because Israel seeks regional hegemony in the Middle East. This has been their plan for decades and decades. They sized up their neighbors in the 1970s, and they looked at all of the Arab or Muslim or other countries arrayed against them. And they realized that if they wanted to truly be secure and safe and powerful, they would have to systematically defeat in detail, confront all of their enemies, destroy their regimes, and dismember their states. And only then would Israel be free to expand their territory, gain access to vital resources, and be able to secure its borders. And that's exactly what has happened. Israel has orchestrated over the course of 30, 40 years the destruction of the regime in Iraq, the destruction of the regime in Syria. And regime change in those two countries created opportunities for Iran. Iran filled the vacuum. Iran is much larger than those countries, much larger population, bigger territory, ancient history, bigger middle class, more money, more oil revenue, bigger military. When Iraq went down, Iran came in and they backed Shiite militias there. And they gained a foothold in the country. It's called the Popular Mobilization Forces. And when Assad was weakened, not defeated, but weakened, It was the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which deployed in Syria to fend off ISIS and the Kurds and all those other groups. And in doing this, Iran created a pipeline. They had personnel in Iraq, in Syria, and that connected them to their proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, which shares a border with Israel, but also the Houthis in Yemen, which they created and which they supported when they took power in 2013. This was the final battle. They took down Iraq, took down Syria, and then Iran, being the big one, having the bigger military, having the bigger population, having the superior everything, and creating this proxy network, this was their final rival in the region. Why did Iran want nuclear weapons? Because it recognized that if it didn't have them, the US and Israel would take them out as they did Iraq and Syria. That's why Iran had a nuclear hedge.
Great argument from Nick Fuentes on behalf of the Iranian Ayatollah. But are we on the side of Iran? Because Iraq and Syria were pretty shit. And this is what I get at. It's like, I am with you, Nick Fuentes. The Jews are running the operation, but the Jews are the only ones that got a shot here. Everyone else is like, put a fucking hijab on. I'll kill my citizens. Like, it's nuts. It's tyrannical. You have to be a lenient, forward-thinking, free country in some capacity so that we can move freely across borders. Normies like me can travel. That's what this is about. At the end of the day, it really, truly is. Because the second that you get somebody else in power and they don't fundamentally act and communicate in the same ways as you, then you worry about your citizens, and then you start figuring out how you can topple them and do all this other bullshit. So it's like, find the fundamental path towards freedom for everyone in the Middle East, and there you go. And I think that fundamental path might be Israel, because everyone else seems to be a tyrannical dictator leader that is doing crazy shit. Except right now, the Saudis in the UAE, they're doing some good work. Good work for the Muslims. They're doing some good work for the Muslims. You know, a few more purchases of our major sports organizations. Like, once the Saudis buy the Super Bowl, then we can talk about Israel not running the Middle East. Okay.
And that's why Iran had a ballistic missile factory. That is why they had this massive stockpile, because that was also part of their deterrent force. They knew it was coming. Israel stripped away their nuclear program, destroyed their missile program, so that now they can achieve what they always wanted, which is to topple the Iranian regime so that Israel can expand in every direction. Think about it. Israel has made peace through treaty with Jordan, which is on their east, and Egypt, which is south of them. They are also treaty allies of Bahrain and the United States.
Genocidal towards who? This is, oh yes, because Netanyahu is absolutely not a tyrannical leader with genocidal tendencies. Genocidal towards who? Towards people that would launch a nuclear weapon? Towards tyrannical, ideological, religious leaders that suppress their own citizens? Like, again, like, if you've never seen, like, sometimes you have to do an episode 3. Sometimes you have to go in like Anakin. You got to take out the young Jedis. That was the school today. Sometimes you got to bomb the school. Sometimes you got to kill the Palestinians. Because underneath it, the operation that's happening, Hamas, or in this case, Iran, is being a tyrannical leader that is suppressing the entire citizenry. If Palestine was if like Hamas, which ran Palestine or that area or whatever since like the 90s, from what my perspective is on it, if they, as well as like I think there's two other groups that were running the area, if they were open and free and Americanized that country instead of being religious tyrants, as I predicted that's what I think that they were doing, I would assume that just like with every other westernized country, that there would be a lot more communication and a lot less like, oh my God, like you're killing us, like the attacks on Palestinians, like the perspective that people have is crazy because the word Palestinian is being replaced instead of the word Hamas, which is the government organization that they're fighting. There's a military operation, Hamas, that Israel is fighting. Now, have they done maybe one too many Anakins? One too many Anakin Skywalkers? One too many episode 3s? Maybe. But at the end of the day, what were they doing? They were fighting bad guys. If you nobody, again, you replace the word Hamas with Palestinian. You don't say, well, he was killing Hamas, and Hamas is really nice and good. No, you say Palestinian, as though the objective wasn't to kill the leaders of Hamas.
Arab Emirates through the Abraham Accords. There is a lot of talk about Saudi Arabia being brought into the Abraham Accords as well. Iraq is a shell of its former self. The U.S. maintains a presence there, and they don't have a strong and powerful military. In Syria, after the Assad regime was ousted in 2024, Israel, or rather in 2025, I believe it was, it was 24. Israel came in and destroyed all of the Assad regime's military hardware, leaving Syria utterly defenseless. Israel defeated Hezbollah and now is using U.S. influence in Lebanon to placate that country also. If Iran is out of the picture, all you have to do is take a look at a map. Israel will have no rivals. They are treaty allies with half of their neighbors. They have destroyed the other half. They have made peace through U.S. bribery and U.S. accords with Egypt, Jordan, Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. They have destroyed the regime in Iraq, Syria, and soon.
Why is Nick Fuentes a piece of shit? To none of this martyrs. Why is Nick Fuentes a piece of shit? Would love to know. Feel free to drop the chat. Or maybe you just left a comment and then you scrolled along on your live stream. But the reason we are listening to this is because this is like the most prominent anti-war person there is out there right now with the education to give us of what is going on. So if you are a Trump derangement syndrome person, you should want to listen to Nick Fuentes tonight. I don't know anybody on the left or right that would think that this would be somebody not to listen to, which is why I'm a little confused and want to know none of this martyrs. Why do you listen to this piece of shit? Well, yeah, I listen to this piece of shit because we're all listening to this piece of shit. This is the fucking guy that predicted that this would happen 2 years ago. And he's the one that's against Trump and blowing up the schools. Like, what? AP, yeah, maybe not piece of shit cowards and not hide beneath the citizens. Exactly. Yeah, the Palestinian shit. Like, I mean, you can go on for days with the fucking Israel-Palestine thing. Like, it just... I was psyop too, because I forgot what had happened before. But for some reason, I didn't want to even watch the October 7th stuff. But once I went back and I looked at that, I was like, are you fucking kidding? And then 2 days later, you're in Times Square saying that Israel is beating up on us after the fucking footage of Hamas, fucking October 7th. Like, just watch any of the raw footage from the festival and fucking get back to me.
To be Iran. This is their ultimate objective. And what this gives them is unbridled, unrestrained, unlimited power. To do what exactly? Well, most likely to expand their territory. Without Iran backing Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas, Israel can pretty easily push the Palestinians out of the occupied territories without having to worry about Saudi Arabia and its influence with the United States and that arrangement. Saudi Arabia's conditioned rapprochement with Israel upon Palestinian statehood. If Israel doesn't have to worry about it, again, they can push the Palestinians out. So what surely comes of Iranian regime change is that Israel first takes the West Bank, takes Gaza. Do they stop there? No. Why would they? Then they go in, as they are, in Lebanon, and they take southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River. And then they use that as a platform to go into southern Syria. And they go where the Druze live. They go down south, right up to the suburbs of Damascus, maybe taking a chunk of that. And maybe they expand south into the Sinai. Why do you think Egypt is deploying its military to the Sinai Peninsula and building tunnels there? They anticipate the collapse of the Camp David Accords and that Israel might seize the Sinai Peninsula. If Israel wanted to reach out then into Jordan, into Saudi Arabia, who exactly would stop them? The answer is nobody. What's more, with Iran out of the picture, now you have this all-important region, sea routes, overland trade routes. Think about the commerce that runs through this region between Asia, Europe, and Africa, through the Suez Canal, through the Strait of Hormuz. Think about all the energy in the Persian Gulf. Think about that vital highway between these continents where there will be rail and highways, where there will be plane routes, where there will be sea routes through these all-important choke points. This is the most influential region in the Eurasian African continent. This is the connector between the three. If Israel controls that region, how rich, how powerful can they become? Again, without being checked, without being restrained, constrained by any strategic or tactical imperatives because of rivals in their neighborhood. The answer is there's no limit. When Iran is defeated, they will have 300 nuclear bombs. No other country in the region has them. They will have a qualitative military edge, which is guaranteed by an act of the U.S. Congress. Do you know that? The United States can furnish other Middle Eastern countries with weapons, but we are bound by law that we cannot give any country more weapons than we give Israel. If we give Saudi Arabia F-35,
This is where I start to agree with Nick Fuentes. Is the APAC stuff, the amount of funding, the funnel of just like the amount of shit that Israel gets to like just take advantage of us on. Yeah. Yeah, that's complete and utter bullshit. But also, remember, Reagan illegally funded Iran so that they could fund the Contras in South America. And then the Tower Report had to come out and explain that we had funded our own enemies illegally. So, like, there's ways for America to give whoever the fuck money we want to give money to. And especially Donald Trump. I do not believe that Donald Trump couldn't figure out a way to give money to anybody in the Middle East that he wanted to. And again, like, yeah, I guess they can't give more money to it. Like, he'd have to just give more money to Israel. And that's the problem, is that all that lobbying for the last 30, 40 years, Epstein, all the coercion, all that shit, it just positioned us in a, like, we are definitely the bitch in this relationship.
F-35s, we got to give Israel twice as many. If we give Saudi Arabia the latest and greatest F-35, we got to give Israel something even more advanced. By law, we are required to furnish them. They are entitled to a qualitative conventional military edge with air power, missile defense, probably soon to be AI and other things. So they will have a nuclear arsenal. They will have the qualitative conventional edge. They are an intelligence superpower, and they are influential in the court of the United States. So in the end, if some other country becomes a problem, in the event that that's even possible, they can always call the White House reliably, and we'll bail them out. And what we have effectively created here, this is the point, is a rival superpower. What we have created is a nuclear power with a very sophisticated conventional military and an intelligence apparatus, and we have handed them control over one of the most important regions in the world. Most important choke points, trade routes, energy, some of the most cash in the world. How much cash is in the sovereign wealth funds of the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris? That's all theirs now. And as the United States, or rather as the world order, undergoes a revolution, as China rises, India rises, as the world transitions from unipolar to multipolar, as we enter the age of complexity, of complex interactions between all states and all peoples in all states, who will benefit from the arbitrage? Who will be the ultimate middleman between China and the United States, between India and Pakistan, between Turkey and Greece, between Asia and Europe, between the Indian Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea? It's going to be Israel. That's the end game. So why are we against this conflict? For me, let me tell you precisely, why am I against regime change in Iran? It's not because of blowback. It's not because of mission creep. It's not because of casualties even or cost. Because all of those arguments, those might not work. Those things are genuine concerns. But in the end, that's not really the root of the problem. The root of the problem, my issue with Iranian regime change, is that we are creating an Israeli superpower that not even we will be able to restrain. That is why this is America last. I wanted Iran to remain, not because I'm a Muslim, not because I'm a cheerleader for the Iranian regime, but because Iran
The beginning to the end. Here's the thing: is that it starts with Adam and Eve. Fuck, man, from the beginning. You want the story from the beginning?
balanced Israel. And balance benefits the United States. Why? Because it gives us leverage to put our finger on the scale. But if there is no balance and Israel has free reign, then where does our leverage go? They become a regional hegemon and they push us out. And then they are free to pursue an independent foreign policy and their own goals, and we will have no say in that matter. And that is not in our interest. So I wanted Iran to remain. That is a counterweight to Israel. And you know what? If Israel has a nuclear arsenal, maybe Iran should have had one too. Maybe the Ayatollah should have been building a nuclear bomb instead of writing about whatever it was, Black Lives Matter on Twitter. Maybe he should have built a nuke and gone all the way. What's the outcome now? But these are incompetent people, as we saw with Hezbollah, as we saw with Hamas and the Houthis. They were a paper tiger, and so was Iran, the source of them all. Maybe they should have built a nuclear bomb. If Israel has 300 nuclear bombs and they wage war on their neighbors and they threaten the United States, what's one more in the region to balance it out? At least then we could put our finger on that scale, as we do, as we have with other countries. That's my problem with all of this. And that's the bigger picture that people are not seeing. Israel has been on a mission. Just look at it. Look at how they have infiltrated the United States and how they wield the United States through our political system, through our financial system. Look at how they have used us like an instrument to achieve their goals, to empower themselves. They stole a nuclear arsenal from us. They got all of this military technology.
Look, like, okay, so EKNYC 16. Who do you support? Like, what is your agenda? Because we've already went through this, which is like, at this point, I think there's only one person that's against Nick Fuentes, and it's like, his name is Netanyahu. Like, personally, I think, are you a close relative to Ben Shapiro? I'm I'm just a little confused. Yeah, I'm talking to you, EKNY16. Yeah, like what you said. Enough of this clown, and then before that, you said this guy is a complete fucking clown. We're talking about Nick Fuentes. Why is he a clown? What is your political perspective? Like, are you a Democrat, Republican? Are you anti-war? Are you fuck yeah war? LOL, not at all. All right.
Technology from us. We built their military. We defeated their foes. And now we have essentially handed this to them. Now they're ready to cut the umbilical cord and become their own superpower. We paid the price. We endured the cost. We paid the money. Our soldiers died. Our country burned so that Israel could grow stronger, so that a Israeli superpower could be born. And now our country will be in the wreckage. Not even a thank you. That's my problem with the war in Iran. So you have to get it right. And this is where we're going in the next 25, 50.
Okay. I honestly, NYC, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. Okay. I've already said this a few times tonight, is that Nick Fuentes does bend it, and obviously, wouldn't you, if since the age of 18, you had the guy on the tiny horse, Ben Shapiro, just attacking you constantly? Like, yeah, he has to be that way. But the reason that we're watching this thing is basically because he's a highly intelligent individual with the intellect to predict this exact action of bombing Iran to like 2 years ago. So we're like, I want to hear from the source. The guy predicted the future, and so let's hear from him.
50, 100 years. This is what we need to be thinking about. A world that is destabilizing, where there is a source of power. You have great powers in Russia, in China, in India. Potentially, Europe will get together as a coherent political unit. You have middle powers like Pakistan, Turkey, South Africa, Brazil, Argentina.
I always have to glaze Nick because I'm from the same place he's from, and I've said this a few times on the podcast, on this live stream so far, but uh, we're all from the like northern suburbs of Chicago, and we all grew up in the 2008 Obama era moving forward. And when you grow up in Illinois with that, we kind of saw a little bit of the scheme of the DNC and the RNC and the big game politics before everybody else. And every single one of these people, these four people that I'll mention, which is Kanye West, myself, Nick Fuentes, and Charlie Kirk, all supported Ron Paul in 2012. And the eventual nominee was Mitt Romney. So I'm just saying, like, it always goes all the way back to then. I mean, if you're gonna look at Nick versus me though on the next one, that's interesting because Nick chose to support Ted Cruz and said that Donald Trump was an idiot and a buffoon that shouldn't be involved in politics, and Ted Cruz was funneling APAC money at that point for his campaign. Meanwhile, I was supporting Donald Trump, and so was Charlie Kirk. because he had the same fundamental principle of taking down the RNC and the DNC and destroying this system, which kind of is the first relic of the Trump is Hitler thing, because that's what Hitler did. Hitler literally campaigned on, I have to win this democracy so that I can destroy this democracy. And then they voted for him in a actual democracy. He was voted into power naturally, and then he decided to slowly start disabling it. That's kind of why they get scared when Donald Trump does things like, oh, here's my third term and this and that. But it's just back and forth, and it just pushes it up. But you wonder if in history that's what was happening in Germany. Was it all a joke back then too? And they just kept ping-ponging each other all the way up to now we're doing all this crazy shit? Maybe so. But again, what is the crazy shit Germany was doing? We don't even really know that. And I don't mean like, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying if it happened at the very end of the war. And that's interesting because in school in America, I was taught the perception that the Holocaust and everything that happened with the Holocaust was essentially the reason and the perspective of us invading and becoming part of the war. Because it was told through the perspective of Anne Frank's diary. And Anne Frank's diary says a very clear narrative, which is like, she's sitting in an attic, the bad guys are going to try to kill her, and then, the Americans come from the sky and save the day. So then you think that all of World War II was about that. And that was not what it was about at all.
Argentina, Ethiopia, Japan, that will play a role. And Israel, we just created another superpower. That's something we're going to have to contend with. And unlike those other countries, they have penetrated ours. So this is a problem. You know, we may be inextricable from this new superpower. They may come to completely dominate the Middle East and the United States, and then ultimately the world. That's it. That's the problem. So people said Iran is threatening Israel. Iran is challenging Israel's influence. That's what they're there for. That is what they are there for. We want that. We want Israel to be weaker so that we can be more powerful over them and over the region. Now we don't have that anymore. So don't get it twisted. People are going to try and say, oh, but there's going to be so much blowback. And you know what? It is playing into the hands of the Zionists. Because when the United States wins this war, without anybody really dying or without it costing a ton of money, when this is as successful as people need it to be to a
Stacy, you're so right. But think about the perspective. Growing up in an American school, would you not say that when you're younger, like I'm saying like 8 to 12 years old, that your perception of World War II in the 90s or even earlier, or whenever you were born, even if it's 2000s, that's okay. Just don't make me feel old. Don't tell me. Uh, is it not like the perspective of like the World War II is Adolf Hitler, the Nazi logo, it means racism, and they were hunting Jews. Like that's fundamentally like the surface level experience of what we're taught. And then when I'm older and I'm 34 years old now and I'm watching a YouTube video from Johnny Harris, he's explaining that everything that, you know, Hitler was publishing is propaganda. And I'm like, okay, well, if the way that my country is teaching me about World War II is this surface level Nazi is hunting Jew racist story, then I could have the perception then that through all of this cancellation of Tyler Oliveira, etc., all these other people, that when Johnny Harris, a professional journalist, goes and sits down to do a 1-hour video on YouTube, which you guys should all check out. It's called like what is fascism, or what actually is fascism, and he's trying to investigate what the word fascism actually means, which comes from the the Italian word for bundling sticks, and then it's a fascismo, which is like putting an axe in the bundle of sticks, which is fashioning a weapon, fascismo, fascism, which was a unit to fight aggressively against any socialist or communist takeover. So they were basically like, we're a democracy, but only for capitalism. And if you look any other way economically, we're going to fucking knock you the fuck down. So, and that is like the origin of fashion in a nutshell. But even in that video, with World War II, with this kind of shit, he's saying that everything that Hitler was writing or doing was propaganda. But I'm taught this surface level propaganda at 8 years old. So I have to draw the conclusion then myself that he is illustrating that point because he is publishing this video on YouTube in America where this is the narrative of truth. That everything that he published is propaganda. I'm very interested to potentially read something from Hitler, but I'm very scared to as well. I've never even listened to any of his speeches in English either with the AI translating because I'm scared that I fundamentally will just see him as Donald Trump. And there's not really anything wrong with him, that he's just a nationalist figure that led his country into losing a war. And then we built a bunch of propaganda against him, made him a devil.
Proof of it, all these people are going to look like idiots because they're all, Mark Levin and Shapiro are going to rub it in your face and say, oh yeah, remember when everybody said this is going to be another Iraq? Well, it isn't. So we need to be very clear-minded about what it is we have a problem with here. And the last thing I'll say about it, and then we'll move on, we'll take a look at Super Chats, is consider the role of the Trump administration in all of it. Consider his role. When Trump got in office in 2016, he did so with help from AIPAC, with help from Sheldon and Miriam Adelson. And that assistance came with a price tag. He was empowered by the conservative movement, which is a glove. I mean, it's a tool of the Israel lobby. And so Trump got into office and almost immediately he unilaterally pulled the United States out of the Iranian nuclear deal, setting us on our way down this road. Obama had made a nuclear deal to the chagrin of the Israelis. The Israelis hated Obama, hated the deal. Obama conducted the negotiations in secret, and the Israelis were not happy. They backed Trump. They wanted Trump to win so that Trump could undo what Obama had done, and he delivered. Trump ripped us out of the nuclear deal and set us down the path. Unilaterally withdrew the United States and then threatened Europe that if they didn't pull out of the deal, then he would put secondary sanctions on them. So they pulled out of the agreement. And then in 2020, Trump took the fight to Iran's proxies. He killed Qasem Soleimani, the head of the IRGC, the architect of the proxy network. He designated the IRGC as a terrorist organization to increase sanctions on them. He put maximum pressure on Iran economically. After Trump left office in 2020, Israel went to work under the Biden administration, cyber attacks on Iran's infrastructure, assassinating their nuclear scientists, industrial sabotage, blowing up their oil refineries, their factories, their defense facilities. Do you know that Joe Biden was nearly going to reconstitute the Iranian nuclear deal in 2022? They were ready to go. And in 2023, just before October 7th, you might remember, Joe Biden had a prisoner swap with the Iranians. We gave them some of their prisoners. They gave us some of ours. We unfroze $6 billion in funds that had been frozen by us in South Korea. We were engaging Iran. China brokered a peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. We were on a path to peace with Iran again. Trump tried to upend it. Biden came in. And what did the Israelis do? October 7th. And that whole deal not only was put on ice, but it went in reverse. And Israel began a campaign to systematically destroy all of Iran's deterrent capabilities. First, its proxy network, taking out Hamas and the Palestinians in the West Bank. Then confronting Hezbollah, toppling the Assad government and ejecting the IRGC, degrading the Houthis in Yemen. And then when they got Trump elected in 2025, They got what they always wanted, which was the strike on Fordo, on Esfahan, on Natanz to take out their nuclear hedge, and now it's the missiles. It could not have been done without Trump. Could not have been done because the Israelis wield the Republican Party. Trump told us the Iraq war was a mistake and we should have never been there and they didn't even have weapons of mass destruction. All this kind of stuff. And he gave them everything that they wanted. He utterly betrayed MAGA and the foundational pillar of America First, which is repudiating the legacy of the Iraq war.
I think Nick is still trying to sell his own agenda here. Um, this is not the Iraq War. These are airstrikes to eliminate hostile targets that were sending missiles into civilian airports in Kuwait today.
What does this tell you? It tells you that MAGA, the Republican Party, it's not a failure. It's a success. It is a roaring success. Don't kid yourself when you say Trump failed us. MAGA died. MAGA didn't die. This is what it always was. This is what it was designed to be, which is they came up with a conceit to trick people to vote for them by promising things they never intended to deliver. A border wall, mass deportations, reindustrialization. They didn't have a plan. They didn't have a clue. They weren't serious about any of it. But they wanted the Republicans back in the institutions. They wanted Lindsey Graham in the Senate. They wanted Project Esther in the executive branch. It was a Trojan horse. 10 years in, we are being told a border wall, mass deportations, tariffs. Well, we just can't do it. It's just too difficult because of the law, because of the Democrats, because of the media, because of whatever. But slowly but surely, the United States has assisted Israel in achieving their ultimate plan, which is toppling Iran and all of its proxies. So when they go in 2026 to ask for your vote, you need to remember this. Remember that the Republican Party is building Israel as a superpower while they kill America. While America is being killed by diversity and illegal immigration by Haitians and Somalians and illegal Hispanics, and I know ordinary Hispanics too, I guess, and black people, all these problems that we have that Republicans don't do anything about. Where's our National Guard in the cities? Where's our mass deportations? Where's our Muslim ban? Where's our border wall?
Honestly, if he's doing all this shit that he's doing right now, I mean, it's coming, okay? Like, don't be such a girl about it. Like, do you know how many... He literally, like, offed a Karen in Minnesota over immigration. That's how much Trump cares about immigration for you. So I'm just, like, settle down, all right? Maybe we'll get there.
While they are complicit in the destruction of this superpower, the Republican Party is building a rival superpower that hates us, So people go out and say, yeah, well, it's a lesser of two evils. Yeah, well, it's better than the Democrats. Is it? Is it better than the Democrats? I'm not sure. I think they're exactly the same thing.
They were. That was what I've been saying all night over and over again, like where I came from, where Nick comes from, where Charlie Kirk came from, the turns of it both. Like 2012 Ron Paul in Illinois. It's because you saw Obama and you saw the DNC and the RNC and the corrupt system for what it is. Again, what were you doing in 2016, Nick? You were shilling out for Ted Cruz. You were totally fine with all of this until somebody told you no, named Ben Shapiro. And if you guys just put it in your head, just think being Nick Fuentes, you got canceled, but now you have over 65,000 people watching a live stream of you. Other people are doing live streams of it, just doing commentary of you. You are like the most canceled figure in America. You are the most successful canceled culture figure in America besides Shane Gillis. Like, if you have that platform, you're not going to shill out for the people that fucked you over. And even Donald Trump fucked Nick Fuentes over. Because even Donald Trump, when he had a Thanksgiving dinner with Kanye West and Nick Fuentes, he answered the question by just acting like he just didn't know who Nick was. Didn't, oh, well, oops, it was an accident. I didn't really mean to. And that's kind of the very first moment that shows you that Donald Trump isn't really in charge when it comes to Israel or any of this shit. That we have kind of dug ourselves into a hole. But again, you're going to blame Donald Trump for that? That makes no sense. If anything, blame Epstein or Clinton or fucking Reagan throwing money at Iran illegally. Like, what are we... there's so many people before Donald Trump was even close to a part of this to blame. But yeah, that's kind of the signal, is that when Nick Fuentes met with Donald Trump, instead of Donald Trump doing the Donald Trump thing and going, I support cancel culture people, fuck you. No, he went, oh, I don't know who that man was. I was just trying to hang out with Kanye West. Kanye West is a friend of mine. So it was totally fine to hang out with the lunacy of Kanye West, but it was not fine to hang out with the lunacy of Nick Fuentes. And if that picture is like, he met him, never spoke to him again, and that's what Donald Trump said about him. He is never going to give his platform that he now has to that person. Obviously.
And I'm not voting for any of it. They're going to try to get you to vote for Vance. Where was J.D. Vance in 2016? Oh, yeah, he was working with David Frum, a speechwriter for George W. Bush. He was doing his Hillbilly Elegy tour, sponsored by Peter Thiel, creator of Palantir, and he voted for a CIA agent groomed by Bill Kristol from National Review for President, Evan McMullin.
This is the one. Okay, guys, Palantir, this fucking Palantir shit. I went down a rabbit hole on this Palantir shit because there was this girl that interviewed Clavicular, which is like a streamer on Kick or whatever, and she paid him $15,000 to interview him, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I was asking my chatbot like all night long. I was like, I know who Clavicular is, and blah 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 blah. But like, why in the world and how in the world $15,000 do you even come up with as even an independent content creator to stir the pot like that? And my deep dive over the night led me down a rabbit hole, which made me realize that the girl had $15,000 because she was paid for by an NFT website called Pump.Fun. That Pump.Fun website wanted to stir the pot because they get more people selling and doing all the fucking shit with the coins and the conspiracies if they're able to stir up momentum. Like, it's like guerrilla marketing. So they gave her $15,000 to guerrilla market this person that they can stir it up on because apparently he got invited to a Peter Thiel event. Well, when he met with her, he waited for a gotcha question, and when she asked about Peter Thiel, because she was trying to provoke anything political to get Pump.Fun back that money, Clavicular, who is pretty much run by Kick, and said earlier in the interview that Kick pays out over $1 million a month in clipping fees just for his channels so that people see his face on everywhere in social media, that he believes that the reason she's asking about Palantir is because she comes from these NFT tokens and stuff that are tied to Palantir and tied to Peter Thiel. Then you look at both fucking companies and you realize Kick and Pump.Fun. Pump.Fun is owned by like I forgot what the fuck it's called. It's like Mother something or whatever. But that is literally Peter Thiel and Palantir. And then Kick is Stake, the gambling website, which is funded by who? Mr. Peter Thiel of Palantir. So it's just like they were pointing each other fingers like a fucking Spider-Man meme. You're Palantir, you're Palantir. And they're just these like beautiful idiots on live streams, not understanding that the deep money underneath both of them is just fucking Palantir.
That's who he voted for in 16. And you idiots believed him. He changed. He's a Trump supporter now. He saw the light. Now J.D. Vance says, well, we can't overlearn the lessons of Iraq. Not all military actions are a bad thing. The guy's a chameleon. He wasn't there in 16. We were there in 16 because we said the Iraq war was a mistake. We don't want Jeb Bush. We don't want AIPAC. We don't want Rubio, who Trump called the puppet of the Adelsons. We wanted America first. We were deceived and we were lied to. J.D. Vance was on the enemy team, and now he's right there with Trump. Now take a look around.
No, Aiden Ross is actually like the face of the company. So he's like the Vince McMahon, but the Linda McMahon, the actual person that like the money is like some offshore Australian guy that like owned the gambling company Stake. And so it's like technically gambling, and that's what Kick is. Like they pay out all these millions of dollars in clipping fees, and you have to put the watermark on there. And basically the way they go is they go, you just put clips up, you just watch anything on Kick and put clips up and put the watermark up on it. If it hits $100,000, we'll pay you $80 or whatever. And there's a laundry list of like the things per the channel. It's to send you to Kick, and then when you got Kick is essentially a fucking casino. So unlike Twitch and all these other servers, they're going to be able to stabilize, or their bankability is that they might be a casino. And if you want to know more about the whole like Kick shit, I'm pretty sure CoffeeZilla has done like a lot of Voidzillas on Stake, the gambling site, and it shows you him and like that he owns Kick, and he essentially like funnels the entertainment end of it to Aiden, who then acts like the Dana White and acts like he's running the show, and in reality it's a fucking online casino that they're trying to send you to.
You're in the golden age Trump White House. You're at Mar-a-Lago. Take a look around at the new face of MAGA. In 2016, the face of MAGA was Trump and Ann Coulter and Jeff Sessions and Corey Lewandowski. That was the face of MAGA. It was Pat Buchanan. It was Sam Francis. That was the inspiration. That was the face of MAGA then. The face of MAGA now, look around. Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, J.D. Vance. These are the big.
I think he just listed a bunch of bad people on purpose and then J.D. Vance. Because I'm pretty sure. Here's my theory on how it's going to go down, guys. I think J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are pretty much going to duel it out for 1 and 2 in the primary. But I think that the primary is going to be like a open, like crazy ass fucking election, because I think Trump is going to purposely not have an endorsement and then specifically say that he'll endorse whoever wins. You're going to have a lot of like propped up candidates and all kinds of stuff, But the one thing that's really happening with Florida and a lot of other state elections is if you take PAC money, which like a lot of these people are doing, they're not winning at all. And that's because of Nick Fuentes. And it's because of just like the anti-Israel like thing of like, no APAC, no PAC, no PAC, no PAC, no PAC. And so people are now having to come out and fund through other dark channels, like this fucking little dweeb in Texas going up against Jasmine Crockett, find their money other places so that they can do advertisements where they say, I don't take any PAC money, because they'll lose the election. I think by the primary, no one's going to be able to take PAC money, which then opens the primary up evenly to pretty much everyone that was in MAGA, everyone that was Donald Trump, everyone that was whatever. Now, you'll still have your loose cannons and stuff, but I think that Nick is either going to have the balls to actually endorse somebody, which would be crazy, or he's going to kind of sit back and do this Democrat complain thing and just say that they all suck and that they're all paid for by Israel. In reality, the Israel thing is that always going to be there. It has been since like way before fucking Donald Trump. And if you move past the fucking Israel issue and onto what's actually happening, it's really good because unlike the RNC, unlike the DNC, unlike 2012 when we were all supporting Ron Paul and going, we need to fight this unfair system that created Obama, you actually have fair across the board RNC. Because at the end of the day, RNC is basically just fighting for the endorsement of Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump will endorse that. Now, as for 2032, I think there's definitely going to be a Trump running for president. I don't know who it is, and I think that Trump's going to put all his cards on that person, and I don't know where we'll be, but, well, unless it's a re-election. So, like, if J.D. Vance gets in, and then he goes re-election, so that would be 32, 36, potentially. So either 32 or 36. Donald Trump is going to do the reality TV show type of endorsement of his own kid or whoever or somebody in his family. And we're going to really see the train wreck then. Because he's going to like do a bunch of public statements. He'll probably be incoherent and like really old and Joe Biden-y. Be saying like off-kilter shit that we don't want him to say. And we'll see if the Trump effect sticks or if we've moved on and we're into something else at that point. That's my theory.
Big boosters of MAGA in 2026, something has gone horribly wrong. All of those people, with some exceptions, were never Trumpers in 2016. Shapiro didn't vote for Trump in 16. Mark Levin was critical of Trump in 2016. Where were these people when the movement was actually born, when those pillars were in place? Now all of those people are in the center. The movement is something else now. And what we need in 2028, this is our last chance, we need in 2026 for this administration to be shut the fuck down. What is this administration?
What's going on here? That's a wild thing to say on your most, like, this is the biggest live stream of the year besides the Kid Rock live stream of 5 million. There was upwards of 100,000 active live viewers on this thing, Rumble alone. That's a crazy thing to say. All the winning that we're getting. You like watching the State of the Union. Is Nick Fuentes falling out of the mainstream narrative of being relevant? Is he just going to complain himself to death? Because this is such a tantrum. This is such a fit. What is your solution is to what? Vote for the Ilhan Omar candidate so that from 2026 to 2028, America First can be America Spend and Do Nothing? Come on, man. That's crazy.
Administration do other than cover up the Epstein files, embezzle money through government contracts, and bring us to war for Israel? This administration needs to be shut down immediately. Do not vote in the midterms, and if you do, vote for Democrats. Fuck this. That
Such a fucking tantrum. He might lose it. He might lose it. This is crazy. He's trying to go viral by saying that to vote for Democrats. He didn't need this. He was on message all night. This fucking crash out. This fucking crash out at the end. This is crazy. That is insane. That is such a fucking rage bait thing. I'm sorry. I went full I'm on board with Trump once the State of the Union, because the State of the Union was the most entertaining State of the Union I've ever seen. I realized then that he's a reality star and a producer like I am, a film producer. Like, he's like, I'm gonna fucking tell the story. And he told the story of the year. And he honored every fucking epic story of the year. And he made his like the people against him look fucking insane. And even Nick Fuentes, I literally watched his show where he was watching the State of the Union, and live on the State of the Union when Trump said stand, and then Trump goes, these people, they're crazy. This guy right up here, fucking laughed, and then he paused the fucking State of the Union, and he said, and I quote, rare win Donald Trump. Now, not even 3 fucking days later, he's like, vote for Ilhan Omar so that America First means America waste money for 2 years so that we can maybe get something better in 2028. And I don't even know what that is. And I can't run, but I'm just going to generationally crash the fuck out on the administration for I don't even know what the fuck reason. You want Gavin Newsom? I'm very fucking confused. Because if they win in November, then they're just gonna go anti-Trump to the board. They win. Gavin Newsom wins. Gavin Newsom becomes president if they fucking win the midterms. So I don't understand the crash out.
That is what the Republicans deliver. That is what our golden age looks like. The tariffs were refunded. The deportations were stopped. They wound down and withdrew the ICE from Minneapolis. What does this administration do other than embezzle money, go to war with Iran, and bury the Epstein files? Oh, and blackmail Harvard so they police anti-Semitism and ban people who criticize Israel from being in America. This administration needs to be shut down immediately. It has forfeited its mandate. They promise no new wars. They promise mass deportations in America first, and we're not getting any of it. So shut it down. In 2026, shut it down.
What a fucking crash out! Oh my god, I still had myself on, so I was echoing there. Sorry. What a fucking crash out.
And our only hope is that in 2028, in the Republican primary, somebody will emerge who will actually put America first. I am not voting for the vice president and the secretary of state that brought us to war in Iran. I won't do it. In 20
I'll tell you what, with this crash out, I'm definitely team Marco Rubio until somebody tells me otherwise. Tell me otherwise. Voted in on 100-0 vote in the fucking Senate. Bro has handled every fucking thing perfectly. And you're over here being like, well, Israel still controls America, so fuck Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio came so far from those tiny hands.
2016, I voted for Trump at 18 years old because Trump said the war in Iraq was a mistake.
Nick Fuentes voted for Donald Trump when he was 18 years old because Ted Cruz didn't get the nomination with the AIPAC money. I'm starting to lose my mind here, people. Like, what is this fucking crash out?
He said Rubio was a puppet of the Adelsons, and Vance voted for Evan McMullin, a CIA spook picked by Bill Kristol. I'm now going to vote for that ticket. I'm going to vote for the Rubio-Vance ticket that brought us to war in Iran. Over my dead body, I would rather die than vote for that. So, in my opinion, 2026, shut it.
Guys, I'm gonna give you an example of what he's essentially doing here. Okay, I'm handed this bottle of water, and I'm thirsty. Okay, and I say, I'd rather die than drink that. I will not. And what do I want instead? I want a different type of water. I want a different water. And we're not talking about Dasani, okay? Dasani was not an option. I'm saying, like, I had a Nestle bottle of water, and I was like, absolutely not, I will die. And then somebody's like, came over here and gave me like an HEB water, and I'm like, thank you very much. Like, what the fuck are you crashing out about?
Down, you got to burn the house down with them inside, metaphorically. And in 28, you better hope that somebody has a prayer to run the Trump strategy and do another hostile takeover over the GOP. Otherwise, I'm going to become a Democrat. Like, at that point,
as he said it, he was like, like, what is this crash out, bro? If you, like, you're winning here, and when you're, like, Nick has been winning and getting even Democrats on his side under the stance of being, like, a libertarian. And then right at the end of this fucking thing, he comes out here and he's like, I'd fucking rather support fucking illegal immigration and a Joe Biden second term. Like, what are we doing? What are you saying? Like, that's not a libertarian stance. That's not a, like, let's bring us together, America first stance. That's a fucking teenage crash out, and I thought you were over it, man.
Rather than be beholden to this country, that is our last chance. 28 Republican primary, we need a Trumpian figure to relight the candle. Someone needs to take the flame and take it further than Trump. He needs to take the baton and take it further and fulfill America first. That is the only way out of this at this point. And anybody that is not on this is not serious. The only takeaway that I have from all of these events, you are not pressuring this administration. All these people told us, if Trump brings us to war in Iran, we'll just tweet about it. Yeah, well, that's not really working, is it? We are locked in here. Here's what we can do. Never Vance 28. We can punish those responsible. We can make it clear. You failed to deliver America first, your political career is finished. You will never be president off of bombing Iran. That is the message we have to send. Never Vance 28, never Rubio 28. I'm not voting for the Iran war candidates in 28. I will not do it. And if this animosity that we have, if it doesn't translate into that, then it will be for nothing. And they're going to try so hard to get you back on board. They're going to downplay it. They already are. You can already see the cope about this operation. But I was there in 2018, in 2016. Okay, I lived it. I lived the first Trump revolution. I wore the MAGA hat on.
He did all of this after the primary. That is such a fucking like. I've never heard him like be like a politician, like one of these commentators, like one of these sleazeballs. But like, god damn it, he's being sleazebally. That is not true at all. Go back and watch Nick Fuentes. Like, type into Google Nick Fuentes America First episode 1, first episode, and it's him praising Ted Cruz and talking about how Donald Trump isn't a real politician and it's kind of crazy, but he needs to just go away. And then Ted Cruz got his ass fucking handed to him by Donald Trump, and the revolution by Charlie Kirk, myself, and others against the corporate RNC, seeing both RNC and DNC as the same fucking thing, which Nick did not. Nick thought RNC's good at 18 years old, and you can give him slack. He's 18 years old. But yeah, his life did change when he wore the hat. That fall, when he went to college and he was 18, that fall in the main election in October. But pull the fucking tape back to February and January in Iowa, and Nick Fuentes was defending APAC funded, RNC funded corporate shill Ted Cruz over Donald Trump.
On the college campus. Okay, we got banned on Twitter. We got persecuted for this the first time. We are the OG vanguard of American nationalism. We have to make a comeback in 28, and we have to take our own side. We have to be the biggest, loudest faction, and the GOP needs to know they cannot, will not win without us, and we're going to let them fail if we have to. Otherwise, you are not serious. If you're not serious about letting the Epstein-Iran war administration and presidential ticket fail, then you are a sucker. You might as well go sign up to flick the lights on and off for them on Saturdays at that point. If Ben Shapiro wouldn't vote for Trump in 2016, if he was willing to let Hillary Clinton win, then we better be just as willing not to vote in 28 for the person that betrayed Americans that brought us to war in Iran. And if you can't do that, again, you have no right to be a free people. You have no right to be sovereign. That's the difference. So that's the situation in Iran. It's so shameful, so disgusting. It's a war of choice. Iran does not threaten us. Got no business there. This was a decision. And it was a decision made by another country for another country's benefit. They will get the glory. We will pay the price. We decrease. They increase. They are delighted to consign the American empire to destruction while they look forward to a golden age, while they look forward to a century of empire and domination. Maybe we can't stop it, but I'm not going along with it.
See, Nick Fuentes is trying to do the Tucker Carlson thing of keeping his little female audience that's like pro-Palestinian, like TikTokers and shit, because they'll clip that and be like, vote for a Democrat and, you know, this and this and that, and then it gets everybody panicked. But if he's going to go this strategy right now for the midterms, then he's going to lose the power that he would have access to for the presidential. I thought he understood this, but apparently he doesn't, which is that he has to go along and he has to also convince a broader audience to come along with a coalition, kind of like Turning Point. You have to turn America First into a coalition that, because like Turning Point brought both people that were swearing and cussing and loved Donald Trump to the I'm a Christian, I have these nice values, Republican, family goer. That was Turning Point, bringing the Christianity to Donald Trump. the only way Nick gets anything out of being able to be this popular in this moment is if he brought more people to the Republican Party. The Democrats have already canceled you because that's what cancel culture is. You're the, I would say, number 2 canceled person of all time underneath Shane Gillis. But like, when you get canceled, like they're not going back on that. So you know you can't go there, and you're only doing this to rage bait clips, but you're funneling people away from the Republican Party for the midterms, which loses power fundamentally for them. And you think then what? That a Republican candidate in the primary is going to give a shit about you and your endorsement? No, they're going to think you're going to shit on them anyway. And even if they get your endorsement for the primary, are they going to get your endorsement through the general? Because you're somebody that can swing sides during a fucking off-year election. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's midterms, guy. You have to stay the plan. You were supposed to get all of the female pussy followers that you have that are like, Palestine, Palestine, Palestine. You're supposed to get those people to watch tonight. And then you're like, and we're all going to vote Republican because we want to still deport immigrants and do all these Republican things. And then when you have all those people, then you bring all those people to the table in January of literally next year, or no, a year and a half from now, January of 28. And you just go, okay, Iowa, who wants all of my new Palestinian women followers that would have been Democrats, but now they're Republicans because of Nick Fuentes? And then, because of your coalition, you can fucking do whatever the fuck you want and pick whoever the fuck you want. But ain't nobody showing up to give a fuck about a Nick Fuentes endorsement in 28 if you're burning the fucking house down in 26. Who was that just left? PD Mick 333. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate you guys. Gotta go, gang. Take care. We are gonna look at a few of his super chats after he talks here and everything, but there's only 28 minutes left of his telecast, and then we'll be done tonight. Tomorrow we're going to do a daytime live stream of, I believe, what was that? I think it was some kind of hearing. One second, let me see here. What did we have? We had the Apple iPhone encryption FBI hearings were 10 years ago. Tomorrow, and so we're gonna do that during the day, and then we'll probably either get to either some Nick or oh my god, the Hillary and Bill Clinton GOP oversight interviews. They are going to drop those very soon, and when they drop those, soon as they drop those, I will definitely be covering those. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and like it and everything. But yeah, we got about probably 22 minutes left of the show, so I would say probably about a half an hour left of the telecast tonight, guys.
Maybe it's biblical, maybe it's prophetic. I'm not going along with it. I'm never worshiping the God of Israel. I'm never worshiping the Moshiach who they think is coming next. Christ is my Lord and Savior. He is my God. America is my country. I may not be able to stop this agenda, but I sure as hell am not going along with it. I'm not fucking voting for it. That I will not do. And that's it. But we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. And then I'm going to get out of here. It's my weekend, for crying out loud. I was saying to myself, thank God it's Friday. And now, now the world has just changed forever.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. I was thinking that Nick was going to go live tonight, like around 10 or 11. But I just realized now that it's Saturday night, and he usually doesn't even do a show. So he was trying to really grab the moment, and the moment did grab him. It was the largest live stream Like I gotta wait till tomorrow so that I can see the stream stats. But most likely the largest live stream of the year besides Kid Rock, which Kid Rock kind of proves that you should always do an alternative live stream to the Super Bowl because 5 million across platforms. That was pretty fucking crazy.
But that's the rallying cry. Never Vance, never Rubio. We have to tell everybody, you know what? I'll tweet it out right now. And you guys got to go and you got to be the brigade. You got to let them know. Okay? Everybody get ready to retweet this.
This crash out, he's not making logic sense here. He needs to understand that the midterms are the midterms. He should be pulling people in. He's not positioning himself in power at all.
Let's see. All right. Now, I should have had something ready, but I'm tweeting this out now. Everybody smash the retweets. This needs to be the narrative, okay? Never Vance, never Rubio. This is our pro.
Which again, like, never Vance, never Rubio, because everybody looked at the State of the Union and saw that it was Vance and Rubio. And only because those are the people that Trump has pointed out. And again, I would have to ask over and over again, why not Rubio? I understand your complaints with Vance. Why not Rubio? There's no 100-0 Senate confirmation as a Trump appointee. Kid Rock, the guy who was a rip of a Sweet Home Alabama about listening to song Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. Has the largest live stream of the year. Ugh. And he probably will for the rest of the year as well, because this one I'm gonna guess this is like probably 250 active thousand over the VOD active, which means that it's probably it's not even close to 250,000, but it's still the second number two by a mile.
Program. We're not going out in 26. I will not reward this administration. They can't pass the SAVE Act. They can't massively deport people. They can't shut down H-1Bs, or they won't. They won't release the Epstein files. I'm not giving them Congress. I'm not giving them the Senate. Good luck. Ask Netanyahu. You want votes in 26? Ask all those free Iranians. Ask the Israelis. I'm not voting for it. And in 28, never Vance, never Rubio. It's got to be somebody else. Otherwise, we're just playing games here. Otherwise, we're fucking around. That's got to be the message. You just lost. The MAGA movement has betrayed itself. Its fundamental pillars are in shambles. No border wall. We're at war with Iran. Forget it. The only thing I will accept in 2028 is America first. Dark America first. And this is the final battle. This is going to be the most important election of our lifetimes. We are either going to have America first, or we are going to destroy the GOP. It's that serious. We're not voting for lesser of two evils. We're not doing it. 2028 is the most important election of our lifetimes. I am never Vance. I am never Rubio. I will never vote for the Iran war ticket. It is America first, or it is nothing. America first or nothing. You either become America first, or the GOP will be destroyed, and I will cheer for it. I may go to the gulags too. I will go to the gulags happily if it means the traitors are not in power. And that's the take it or leave it mentality we need to bring to the table. They're going to say everything about us. They're going to try to fuck with us. They're going to try to get us to stand down. You're not immune to propaganda, but you have to tune that out. This is how we flex American power. I'm sick of Jew power. I'm sick of Israeli power. I want American power. But that starts with taking control over our vote. That's the message. But we're going to move on here. Let's take a look at our super chats. You know what? We're only going to read the big ones because this is a sort of historical, momentous stream. So I don't want to read a bunch of crap.
The under oath thing and like all of it. Okay, so everything he did there at the end is a typical Gen Zer for you. He literally just wants to get the clips, and you can see it so clearly. The speech was boring and filled with knowledge. It all made common sense. And then the last 5 minutes were rage bait ass fever, crazy ass shit being said, and then they can clip it. And because he's Nick Fuentes, he can turn around and he can go, "Oh well, I mean, I feel this way now. I feel this way now. Left, right, whatever." But it's crazy because that. And also re-comment on the Kid Rock. I like Kid Rock. I like his songs. I even like that Sweet Home Alabama remix. But what was her name? Julian Fry. You do have a point, which is like, I mean, it is still trash music.
We'll read the big ones, and then maybe I'll read the smaller ones on Monday. Okay.
African American source sent $1,000. You are so right.
Hey, thank you for the huge super chat. I am right. Isn't that crazy how vindicated I am? Everybody doubted me. Why? Don't you know I'm the best in the world at what I do? Don't you know I'm the #1 live streamer of all time? I had people doubting me. It's like people that don't even know the first thing.
It's that. That's exactly what this is. Like, he's trying to take the victory lap, and he went too far with it. He went way too far with it because he's just now trying to get his rage bait clips at the end, and it's like you're losing the substance. We all tuned into you on an historic Saturday night as one of the biggest live streams of the year because we wanted your opinion on the war, and you gave it. And then you gave us a bunch of fucking nonsense at the end about how you really don't like anybody at all that has anything to do with Donald Trump. And then it was essentially just a clip farm after that. Because you were just trying to get the fucking clips out that everybody will use tomorrow. I'm telling you now, guys. Nick Fuentes is going to go viral tomorrow morning. He told us to vote for the Democrats right after the war. Even Nick Fuentes wants us to vote for the Democrats. Shut up. All he did here is if he continues down this path of waging war on the midterms, he's going to fucking lose out. Like, he should just stay quiet on the midterms. Because, yeah, you're not going to get America First candidates there. They're already locked in. A lot of the primaries that you do see in the GOP, you see the America First candidates and the non-packed acting candidates win, both on the Democrat and Republican side, which is good. If you're not taking PAC money, that's good for all of us, no matter what kind of side of politics you're on. And that was because of Nick Fuentes. But what he's doing right now, if he's serious, if this isn't just some fucking clips for tomorrow, if he continues to do this for the next 2-3 weeks, this is the fucking problem because then they're not going to take him seriously in 28. He has no leverage in 28, which means that he might even fall out of relevancy by the end of this year, to be honest. I mean, as a pop culturalist, like that's what I'm really after here is like what is relevant in the world. Like I will not be watching an episode of Nick Fuentes live streaming next year if this is where he's headed, because he's just going to kind of fall into oblivion. I feel like if that's what what his real motives are is my guy or no guy. Like stay quiet right now so that the party still has strength, and then say
thing
all at
about
once. Like,
politics. It's crazy. So I'm feeling pretty smug. Everybody, all these Groyper come lately types, they said, he sold out. He took the paycheck. Never forget, I told people not to vote for Trump. I earned this. Okay, we needed this. We earned this. So yeah, that's just next level, like all-time legend, calls the shot with complete precision. And I remember on election day, do you remember people were so smug? They were like, Nick Fuentes and the Groypers just screwed themselves. I was right in 24, 25, 23 for that matter.
I think we already saw two key moments in American culture that kind of signify that his mainstream success is on the way out. The first was Kanye West doing the apology tour, and then not commenting any support for the canceled Miami party, just kind of leaving it. But Sneeko got a lot. Sneeko got a lot of praise by sticking up to Andrew Tate. But you didn't see a lot there from that. And that was the first one, was that Kanye wasn't supporting Nick Fuentes at the Miami club, and Kanye was apologizing. And then the next one was like the State of the Union, which kind of just recapped to everybody like everything that actually has happened. Like, we live in a real complaining culture, but 65% of a CNN polled audience felt like that was a overall positive speech, and it was the longest speech ever. You know, the longer the speech goes, the less likely it's going to be positive. So to have a overall positive State of the Union speech, where even Nick Fuentes over here was doing his live stream and laughing about these people are crazy and saying rare Trump win less than a week ago, I think that was the two, and this might be the three strike, or we might see another cultural moment that like really strikes it. But I think that we're kind of, when you really look at it, it's like, all right, so what? We're like the Epstein files, yeah, sure, all right, cool, and okay, and then that's Israel, and then Israel's the other big one. Okay, cool. So if you believe the Alex Jones tale that Israel is essentially controlling America, and that it was all through Epstein and doing all these weird things and eating babies and all this shit, it's all come to light. Believe what you want, but if you believe any of it, then what do? You have to pick your choices inside that world. You're not going to, like, the world doesn't change for you because you exposed it. Bill Clinton went and did an interview and just said that he didn't know who Epstein was and just left. Hillary Clinton said that she never knew them. Like, did a press conference, never knew them. There's photos of her at the fucking Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Like, no one's gonna ever win. And you'll see it over and over again. If you look on my Instagram page, Real Alex Wagner on Instagram, you'll see 1.1 million, and it's a viral clip of Joe Rogan on Kill Tony, where Ari Matti, a guy from Estonia, does a Israel joke about like Israel bombing, the Israel bombings in Munich in Germany, and Joe Rogan is frozen in fear, and it went viral because of that. So it's like, yeah, it's true. But if you, okay, we've proven the conspiracy theory. Now what? Now what? Now we gotta just live in reality, all right, guys? You gotta make choices inside the conspiracy theory. We all live in a country owned essentially by Israel, and even if they get rid of the PAC money, that's just a way of talking about it. They'll find another way to pay them. Pay people anyway. As we can see with Epstein, you can do whatever you want to do. The whole fucking thing is like, stop fighting to prove the conspiracy theory. We all agree. We all live in America. The conspiracy is real. But now what? If every politician is going to be controlled by Israel anyway, I want Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is the only one that if Israel did something really bad, or if Israel was doing something fundamentally to harm the infrastructure of America, Donald Trump might, as an individual, stick up against that system. But do I believe that any other politician across the board would? No. And it's like, so I don't, like, I'm kind of just becoming like a goddamn Donald Trump bootlicker, dude. Because, like, I'm like, I want the wild card. And there ain't no bigger wild card than Donald Trump. There isn't. Cheddar pay-per-view says, tell that piece of garbage he needs to get his ass to the Marine Corps, Army Corps station and sign up, go to war, and then war that Trump's started. All the mega needs to head their asses to the Army station. Oh, okay, cool, yeah, all right. You haven't watched any of this stream, apparently, because you don't understand that, like, no one from the Army or the military or whatever the fuck you're talking about was ever fighting in this war. A bunch of fucking pilots that are like really tiny G.I. Joe looking figures, and then they go and they drop a fucking bomb and blow up the Ayatollah. That's what fucking happened, alright? No fucking, Marine climbing out of the goddamn ocean. Shut the fuck up, you Democrat. You're definitely a Democrat. Cheddar trying to tell, yeah, you piece of shit. If you like war so much, then you go fight it. Alright, I'll go fight it. It's a remote control. It's an RC car. That's war now, guys. All right, I think I've had enough of this tonight. He's just gonna gloat. Let's wait. Let's see if there's anything funny gonna happen here. Hold on.
So it's not that I'm not always right. I'm just not always right now. Okay, just wait a couple of years. Give it a couple of years. Benefit of the doubt. All right. But yeah, I was right. Thank you for the huge super
Boomer
chat.
House at $100. Gotta love how the most media is getting normies to believe this is about liberating the Iranian people. The same people that want the whole Middle East minus Israel turned into glass.
Yeah, and people are eating it up. You severely...
Yeah, we're we're done. We're done. We're done here. That was, come on. All right. He's turning into Candace Owens. He's clearly turning into Candace Owens. He's trying to propagate his side of the story, I guess. I'm not really understanding what that's all about. But yeah, I mean, he literally started the live stream off explaining how we, got rid of their nuclear arsenal. So they're bad people. Iran is bad people. The Ayatollah is bad people. I know personally friends of mine that teach classes to Afghan girls that are very, very excited that the Ayatollah and the head of the Taliban are both dead tonight. From the Palestinians, or from the Pakistanis, to the Israelis, to the Americans, to the Chinese. The only question that really still remains, kind of, is like, I'm pretty sure China tells Pakistan what to do. But does Israel tell us what to do, or do we tell Israel what to do? I think if we tell Israel what to do, then Epstein files never came out, and also, like, Donald Trump wouldn't have dropped the bomb today. I think that we do listen to Israel. I think we definitely are just listening to Israel, and I think Israel is telling us what to do. But if that perspective, look at that then. Okay? So, do you think that Pakistan should be like, fuck you, China, Pakistan first? I don't think if we say America first in Israel that Israel it cares. If Israel's truly in power, then Israel is just as powerful as China, And then that means that we should just shut the fuck up and listen. Because that's what Pakistan does. And it's working out for them. And it worked out for us today. So either you have two executors, America and Pakistan, and they execute the Ayatollah and the head of the Taliban for China and Israel, or you have America and China, which makes fucking sense, and America and China are both like, hey, Israel, hey, Pakistan, get rid of the fucking Ayatollah and get rid of the goddamn fucking head of the Taliban. I don't know which one you want to believe, but I'm starting to become less of a conspiracy theorist lately. I'm starting to think that, they tried to bribe us and pay us off and all this shit. Also, let's talk about Epstein real quick. My theory on Epstein is this. Epstein was in the inner workings of almost every high-end individual in America. He was clearly, I think what he was doing is he was tied to Lex Wexner, which was really good friends with Israel's prime minister. And basically, Israel's prime minister and Lex Wexner decided that with Lex Wexner's money, they would allow Jeffrey Epstein to just do whatever he wanted with that money. Just, go around, have fun with people, do whatever. We just want, at the end of the day, for when you come back to Tel Aviv and talk to us, you tell us what's going on. He goes, oh, okay. And then slowly you realize you're an operative. But that's how easy it is. It's, I'm going to give you the jet, whatever you want. You just call me up, I'll give you whatever you want. You just got to let me know who you're talking to and what's going on. And you got to make sure you're like talking to all the cool people. All right, cool. Endless cash, endless access. Now we look at what happens when you have endless cash, endless access. Well, especially post or pre-Me Too movement, Weinstein getting in trouble at all, that was an era where it was all open. And of course, if you have unlimited money, then you're going to eventually start doing weird ass shit like, oh, maybe I eat the stem cell of this baby because I was told it was better. Oh, maybe there's this 14-year-old or 15-year-old, and maybe me and her go and we just say hi in this room, and oh, wow, it's so fresh, and it's something that other people don't have access to. It's a luxury. It's the same thing as being able to get on the private jet. It's the same thing as being able to get access to the pool. Whatever the people want that he has access to, they get. But also for him, he's getting all of it. So, of course, he's going to keep wanting more, and he gets more and more and more. And as a man, you're getting more and more and more and more and more and more morbid and more crazy about all of it. They find out what he's doing with the sex stuff, and he tries to just cover it up. Ghislaine Maxwell tries to fight those women because Ghislaine Maxwell is a woman as well. And from her perspective, she thinks they're all prostitutes. They're all sex workers. You knew what you were getting into. You knew what you're doing. From Epstein's perspective, from Trump's perspective, from the people of fucking Palm Beach perspective, they're like, shut the fuck up. A politician, a person of my level stature, person on Palm Beach, cannot be having 15-year-old prostitutes. So shut up. We're going to pay them. We're going to do whatever they want. She kept fighting, especially Virginia Dufresne. Ghislaine Maxwell kept fighting Virginia Dufresne. And eventually, they came back with that 2019 lawsuit when they found a really shady Texas law firm that was like one of those extort the celebrity law firms. And they compiled over 40 victims, which we don't know. Again, like when you do these things, again, like how many victims of Cosby really were there? 60 women in one trial. Okay, like, all right, if there are 60 of them, then how did none of them come forward before this? You pile on. And as long as you can, meet the minimum standard, then you can be a part of the lawsuit, just like any class action lawsuit. Oh, so you met him and you say this thing happened, and we presume it's okay because these other people it happened to as well. You can be added to the list. We don't even have to have you testify or do anything. Ghislaine Maxwell then exposed that that's what happened with the 2019 and that she wouldn't stop fighting with Virginia Dufresne when she was doing the FBI interview last summer with Todd Blanche, I think it was, whatever, the fucking Trump guy. Then my theory is this: when they went and got Epstein, they finally got him in 2019, and then they try to condemn him. And this is post Me Too, so they were getting him in the same way they were going to get Weinstein. They were like, "What you were doing was wrong," and he's like, "But what everybody else was doing was wrong." And I don't think that there were all these cameras and all this extortion and all this stuff to be able to show people. I don't think that that was what this operation was. It was a word of mouth intel operation. But what he did have access to was Bill Gates' back pocket. And Bill Gates' back pocket has access to a vaccine. And Bill Gates' back pocket also has access to viruses. And so my theory then becomes that when Epstein goes to prison, everyone that's rich knows Epstein already. Because, again, if you're rich, you just know him because you're either at a party with him, or if you are at a party with him, maybe you're like, "Oh, hey, Epstein, you're a nice guy. Can I go on your jet? I just wanted to go to Salt Lake City." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool. You go on my jet with me in Salt Lake City." Doesn't mean that they're like getting into all the partying and coke and doing the girls and all that shit. Was there the massage that was clearly part like fucking prostitution? Absolutely. But he was the number one person getting the massages, and there was other men that were getting massages. I think Bill Clinton definitely was getting that access because he was around it enough. I think that if you're around it a lot, you were going for the access points. You were going for the partying. You're going for this. You're going for that. You can see all of this as true because of Elon Musk's email to him where he's kind of like insinuating, "Hey, can I get to the island? I want to go do a crazy party." And he's like an autistic motherfucker. So that's like the clearest example of like what it really was, which was everybody knew this guy. Nobody was ever going to question the money because he was just a nice guy that was generous in the rich perspective. Like, he's endless. So it's, of course, you're going to have access wherever you're at. Let's go have dinner. He always pays. Jeffrey Epstein always pays when you get dinner. So it's nice. Even if you're a fucking billionaire, it's still nice. You don't have to worry about anything with Jeffrey Epstein. He's never going to come after you. So and all that his job really is that then he goes back 3 or 4 months later, goes to Israel and goes, "Hey guys, yeah, I was talking to Bill Clinton and he was talking about that deal that they were doing and blah blah blah." And they get the information. Were they trying to extort him by being like, "Hey, you go sleep with this girl. Haha, now I got a tape of you. Now you're blah, 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 blah." No, because if they fucking did that as Israel, again, as we already put out, this was America and China doing these operations. Pakistan and Israel were the bitches doing it. Is that if they fucking tried to extort Bill Clinton that way, you think the fucking Clintons wouldn't have eliminated the motherfucker Epstein? Come on. They were never trying to extort Bill Clinton. He was just having fun with Bill Clinton. But in 2019, when they booked him and they said, "Hey, it's all your fault and you really did this," and he was mad that everybody else did it too and nobody else got fucking charged, he had access to things that other people didn't have access to. He had access to viruses that other people didn't have access to. He had conversations about pandemics with Bill Gates. And if anybody was ever extorted by Jeffrey Epstein, it was definitely those emails with Bill Gates. So Jeffrey Epstein goes to prison, and then all of the rich elites find out that there's this new virus going out from China. And then they overreact. They drastically overreact. Why? Because they know that Jeffrey Epstein or his people or whatever have released this virus in retaliation for them arresting him. And so you think that this virus, or for not even arresting him, for killing him. So you think that that would be my theory, is that I truly, truly do believe this, is that the people behind Epstein and the money, when they finally did kill Epstein, kind of like Iran with retaliation and shooting the rocket towards Kuwait today, they shot out the virus. And that's why there was such an overreaction. It wasn't just the Trump derangement syndrome shit. It's the fact that everyone in the elitist high circles knew, oh fuck, they released it. And then you over panic. That's why the masks come out. That's why we need the vaccine. That's why it's this big deal. And then after 2 or 3 months, you realize there's a bunch of benefits to it. Oh, yeah, we can get Trump out. Oh, yeah, we can do this. Oh, yeah, we can do that. But I was in New York City when it first started. And I do not blame Andrew Cuomo for putting those fucking people in the nursing homes and all that shit, because it was a crazy panic where everyone was like, oh my God, it's the end of the fucking world. And I didn't know why, because I would walk outside and everything was fine. And I come from a really poor family, so I just didn't trust people. I just walked outside every day. But whatever, man. Yeah, put a fucking mask on. Why the fuck am I putting a mask on and walk outside? It's fucking weird. And then, like, 11 months later, somebody's like, oh, study says you don't have to do that anymore. But who was telling me to do it to begin with? It wasn't about conformity. They weren't in charge. Donald Trump was in charge. It was because they all thought that there was a virus that was going to kill them all. And then when it didn't kill us all in New York, after the first 2 weeks, then it was very beneficial for everyone that was a Democrat to start shutting down the economies, to start using it as leverage to eventually get rid of Donald Trump. That's my perspective from somebody from Manhattan, from somebody fucking just thinking about all the Epstein files and reading what I fucking read. But thank you guys so much for jumping in to the stream. Big shout out to Big Bag of Pot 420. I'm gonna finish my blunt. Thanks for the reminder. But also, I mean, he was a member today. Gave us our first fucking super chat ever. Awesome recommendations for me for doing a Discord to be able to have more conversations with you guys one-on-one with a phone call, all that kind of shit. And I will be back tomorrow. This was an awesome experience. I'm going to try to hook up everything the correct way so that I can interrupt and pause and do it the right way tomorrow. But I think the live streams that I'm doing from now on, I'm going to come in and just watch them with you and do commentary. I was just playing the old school live streams, like doing an intro and coming in every 5 or 10 minutes. But I think I'm just going to sit with you guys and do this chat because this is really fun. This is an awesome community. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. And tomorrow afternoon, morning, I would say, what is it? Oh my God, it's almost 1 a.m. now. Yeah, let's say fucking afternoon. Let's say like noon, 1 p.m.-ish probably. We're going to do the iPhone encryption hearings, which were 10 years ago on March 1st. So there was the iPhone encryption hearings, and we might do something else as well. I can't remember what else is going on. But if we ever get those Hillary and Bill Clinton oversight interviews, definitely the first thing we're doing. Thanks again. Have a great night, everybody.